I will call to order the Rolesville Board of Commissioners work session. This is March 17th, 2026. I want to thank everybody in attendance. Appreciate you guys coming out tonight, being here. We got a few items on the agenda tonight. This is a work session, so it's mostly just presentations and discussions. We do have one legislative hearing. We will be continuing TA 2511. So if you're interested in that, that's on the agenda. So with those comments, do I hear a motion to consideration of the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion second. Is there any other discussion? Not hearing it.
One quick note.
Say aye.
I do have one quick note. The presenter for number 4, the Farm Master Plan with ADW Architects, they said they'll be about 10, 15 minutes late. And so when we get there, we'll just move on to the next one. And so that'll likely result in a change in the order of the items that we go through, but they will be here.
Okay. Who is that?
ADW Architects.
Who's the architect? Is it one we know?
Yes.
So I'll recognize him if he comes in then. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and a second. Without any further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds like the ayes have it. Ayes do have a motion approved. Thank you, Board. First item is pre-application preview for a quarry. That's PN 1768467947, which is a Central Park group. Stephen, I think you're going to kick that off, if that's correct. So, come on up. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just want to introduce Justin Brown, who's going to make his presentation for his future proposed development.
Before they approach, I just want to take one quick note. This pre-application preview is a new thing that we're doing with the work sessions. It's something that came by way of a conversation with our mayor, the mayor of Hillsborough, and then I working with the mayor, the manager of Hillsborough. His name is also Eric, by the way. And so this is just something that it serves to help put ideas in front of you before they submit an application. This will not be something that every single applicant will get an opportunity to do, but these are things that we as staff, when we see it, is something that may be good for the town, that's not consistent with the current plan, or something that's unique that we think will be a good idea for them to get in some initial response or feedback from you all, so that they can take that into account as they go through the application process. So this is just another step that we're taking to be more friendly with our developer community as they bring new ideas, but also for us to be more intentional when it comes to the things that we set forth in our strategic plan, with being smart growth and ensuring that growth happens for us, not to us. And so this is just one of those things that we'll be making time for within our work sessions for these developers to bring ideas before you. And so it'll be a new item, but the intent of it is for it to be something new to you, for you all to just hear about. And so I wanted to give that bit of a preview, and we'll work on giving that disclaimer before each one of these until everyone learns the rhythm. But I didn't want to pump fake you, but y'all can come on up and present. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for the input, Eric. And also, I think it really helps this board get to see it before it gets all the way down the road. And then it gets all the way down the road, and you don't think it's where it needs to be, or a lot of these places, you think something else needs to be there. So it's a first shot before it gets a lot of work done going through the planning board, that you guys can take a look at something. So with that, I'll turn it over to you. And if you would, introduce your name and address, if you would.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. I'm Justin Brown with Pannoni Associates, with an address of 5430 Wade Park Boulevard in Raleigh. Zip code is 27607. Appreciate everyone's time tonight. I was told to keep it extremely brief, around 5 minutes, so I'm going to do my best to work through a 5-minute presentation. The subject property is located just to the east of the intersection of East Young Street and Quarry Road, and it actually is directly across the main entry point of the Rolesville High School. As you can see on this map, it's your approved adopted zoning map. It's basically currently RL, residential low density, approximately about 14 acres in size, very rectangular shape with no frontage along East Young Street.
So is that correct? Is it RL,
Correct.
even a new plan? So,
And I've got the future land use map as well further in the PowerPoint.
right, that's the old map then, right?
If you guys have updated it, it was part of our pre-application meeting that we
Okay.
discussed.
I
Yeah.
got you. Yeah, because I think comprehensive plan has changed.
Well, yeah, I've got the comprehensive plan maps in here as well.
Okay.
So again, just to reiterate, the overall site acreage is about 14.03 acres, has no frontage along East Young Street, about a quarter-acre existing jurisdictional pond that will remain in place, 1,700 linear feet of Quarry Road frontage, about 320 linear feet of depth of the property itself, and directly across the street from Rolesville High School. This map is your future land use adopted map, identified as commercial center, surrounded by rural, residential, and agricultural to the east, civic use to the south, as well as commercial center, and mixed residential community to the west across East Young Street. Kind of zooming in and focusing on our actual comprehensive plan vision, identified as a commercial center. The overall commercial center area is around 228 acres, so this accounts for about 6.5% of that overall adjacency from a commercial center designation. No mention of residential uses permitted within the commercial center designation within your comprehensive plan. And it does go on to state that these parcels represent conventional commercial uses along primary corridors. Such uses are accessible via automobile or sidewalk, as these uses are equipped to serve residents and visitors alike. As a principal shopping corridor, architectural standards and code enforcement provide for a vibrant commercial experience. So to kind of reiterate our quick request for feedback this evening, reiterating the existing zoning designation of RL, residential low density, identifying some permitted uses for our residential uses consisting of single family detached, family care facility, as well as state licensed group homes. It's about a max density of 2 dwelling units per acre in the residential low density designation. We're considering filing a residential high density application before the town, which would allow for around 100 single family attached dwelling units, what we're analyzing from an overall 14-acre development standpoint, as well as the accessory uses associated with a townhome development, such as the amenity spaces. Again, reiterating the comprehensive plan, commercial center, recommended uses are conventional uses along, again, primary corridors. We don't have a primary corridor frontage. And then compatible zoning is G, C, and CH. And no residential uses were identified in the comprehensive plan, but in the G, C, and CH, dwelling unit upper story is the only residential use permitted. So a few consideration factors as far as the comprehensive plan and how residential can be applied favorably is looking at the surrounding. We are surrounded by over 200 acres of future land use designation of a community center, as well as there's currently a permit filed with the town of Rolesville at the intersection of East Young Street and Quarry Road, the southeast intersection that consists of about 100,000 square foot of retail development currently, over 26 acres of land. Visibility, again, kind of reiterating the comprehensive plan about fronting on a primary corridor. This project only fronts on Quarry Road. It doesn't have direct visibility access to East Young Street nor 401. And then the existing conditions directly across the street from Rolesville High School would allow for walkability to the high school for students and teachers alike, as well as the actual shape of the parcel is not conducive for a large shopping center just with 320 linear feet of depth of parcel. And that is the extent of my a little bit longer than 5-minute presentation, most likely.
Thank you. As you can see, we got two commissioners absent tonight. They're actually out of the state, I think, so on a trip, right? So, so board, this is your chance, you know, if you know of questions that Dan or Linwood would be asking, you know, welcome to ask those. So it's kind of your preview of what you want to, how deep you want to dig into this tonight.
Okay, well, I have a couple of questions. Number one, and this is probably going to go to Stephen, with that entire purple shaded area, not including the parcel that is closest to Rolesville High School, because we already know that what's going in there. How many land parcels does that encompass? Meaning, how many individual lots?
I can,
Yeah, I can take a guess
I know
at
the answer.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ronnie, you probably could take a guess. How many would you think?
Yeah, I can take a guess at it. The triangle near the school,
Yeah, not including that, because we already know what's going on in there.
okay, the big one above the site is all one.
Okay?
The one across the street, which is close to the point, is one.
Okay?
And then the little triangle off the bypass is one. So
Okay.
what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
You nailed it.
But basically, north of, and I can't say north, at the top of the site, where it's listed right there, that is, you're fairly confident that that's one particular parcel.
It is one parcel around 140 acres in size.
Because my knee-jerk reaction to this is that by just carving out this one little piece here and just putting up some townhomes, that's not what we're looking for here in this site. We have got to use the smaller bit of land that we have left to be able to bring about more commercial. And if you break that site up, just with that one little piece, that could theoretically inhibit or change what might be able to happen with the parcel that's above it. You know, and we already have a huge amount of homes coming into the point. I mean, what is, you guys have a
All the other
guesstimate?
subdivisions adjacent to it.
Exactly.
About 7 or 8 subdivisions all along Rolesville Road.
So I know just for myself, I would not be favorable towards 100 townhomes going in on this site. You know, I think that site, that it is in our land use, our future land use, it's commercial center for a reason. And to just be able to try and carve out one little piece and put in as many townhomes as we can doesn't really work for that, for this intersection, for this area. But that's one of 5 commissioners' opinion here.
I would join with Commissioner Burnett that our taxes, residential tax base is 92%. We're way behind on commercial. That's one of the reasons why that future land use shows a lot of purple up there for commercial use. And as we both alluded to, the traffic is horrendous, and we haven't even started with filling in the residences that have already been approved up and down Rolesville Road. So that will continue to be a problem, and why add to it? I'm not inclined to add to it.
Any comments, Stephen?
The current property owner is here tonight as well, and she'd like to say a few words. She did sign in this meeting, so.
Thank you. If you would, state your name, address for the record. if you would.
Well, knowing we had 5 minutes, I'm only going to give you 2 sentences. I'm the owner of the property. It will not be sold for commercial ever. Not in my lifetime, not in any lifetime. And I could take time to explain that, but I have a better way to explain it. And that is, ask me to write a letter. Knowing we had 5 minutes. Okay? So there's a letter here to explain why that property will not be commercial. And there's a little souvenir to go with it to explain that. But it has to do with the fact that the former mayor of Rolesville is the person who owned that land, and that's why we have the high school there. I can't go into details because I'm out of time, but it's all explained there in my letter, and it will not be sold for commercial.
Did you state your name?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm Ann Robertson. I'm the granddaughter of George Robertson.
Okay.
People around here know George Robertson?
Yeah,
Okay.
we know you. Thank you.
And there are lots of Robertsons around here,
Yeah.
still in Rolesville.
Thank you. Anybody else? Was anything else on this one, Stephen, you wanted to wrap up on anything?
Nothing else.
You just taking information was given? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for you kind of introducing that tonight. Appreciate that a lot. Okay. Did architect come? He is? Okay. So next item is the farm master plan. ADW Architects will present that along with June Green, Parks and Recreation Director. Who wants to kick it off?
I will, Mayor.
Okay, come on up, June. Appreciate that.
Let me get this to me real quick. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm June Green, I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. And today we will have Darren Walker from ADW Architects to come in and talk to us about the farm. And Matt has pulling it up. 1 second, pull it up.
Yeah, thank you. Darian Walker with ADW Architects. While he's doing that, our team was basically tasked with taking a fresh new look at the farm park based off of the historical data that we got, all the work that's been done. We were taking that and sort of evolving it into what we have currently. Give me a second. Hey, thank you. Perfect. Right, so looking at the farm park, does it not advance? It's all right. There we go, we'll do it that way. So the existing site is about 106 acres. We have sort of the Perry Creek connector with the two ponds that are there existing. A little bit of topography starting high, sort of on Lewisburg Road, and then flowing down to the waterway. We did look at the history of the park. One of my partners got really deep into it, reached out to the family, went and visited the site. He was really struck about how the history of the park was always used to be a family farm. And on that farm, there was a lot of existing buildings, pecan trees, ponds, et cetera, that we were trying to weave into the park itself. On the master plan, this is a revised master plan, so this is an overall. We'll dig into a little deeper through the sections. But we were trying to basically pull the rec center away from the traffic and the noise of Lewisburg Road and sort of pull it into the site a little bit, creating a orchard out front with the ballparks over to the left and right, the east and west, or actually the north and south, I should say. And then activate specific parts of the site. So we created this orchard memorial area up front, using the remnants of the existing house there, which has foundations that are stone foundations, and then using the front porch idea to sort of sprinkle throughout the park a pergola with swings. And then the multi-use activity center, the rec center, located in the center of the park right here, sort of connects all the areas of the park. It becomes a familiar point right in the center of the park. there's a little bit of interior on the right-hand side of what that could look like. And then the left-hand side is sort of taking that farm aesthetic and then sort of sprinkling it, throughout this building and making it sort of a beacon in the center of the park. We put an event lawn off to the south from the activity center, where the activity center sort of flows out into this event lawn. It could be used for weddings, gatherings, outdoor movie events, etc. And then to the north of that, planned north, is a playground. So as soon as you come in that entry, you'll see this playground that's sort of built into the landscape that creates an area where it is attracting for families and adults and kids. And then it's close to the rec center as well as the event lawn and the ballpark, the baseball park. So the baseball fields are located on that little island off to the right, and then the smaller ballpark is located over to the left. The one that's sort of over the ravine is a nice spot to really create a really signature baseball field. And then we have the 4 soccer fields, 2 larger soccer fields and 2 smaller soccer fields. All of these are connected with an active connector. So the one in the center to the plan north of the activity center could be used for food trucks. It's right off the parking area, so there's not a lot of added asphalt or concrete. And then we have an active connector that sort of connects the ballpark all the way back to the activity center, cutting through the parking there. But it's an area where you could have picnic tables, fire pits, you could have different shipping containers that have outdoor sort of rec amenities or sports equipment in it, so you're not having to keep everything in the active rec center. And then also picnic shelters associated with it. So then we've also got this future event venue that's located across the Perry Creek connector, which I'd call it. It's on this more remote part of the site. It's very quiet over there. Could be used for weddings, events, gatherings, things like that. And then it kind of spills into the waterway and has access to views there as well. So overall, we're trying to take the natural landscape, the history of the park, or the history of the land, and sort of sprinkle it throughout, bringing the farm back into the park, and then have the park to be activated throughout the areas and sort of connected through these pedestrian greenways. That's it. Does anybody have any questions?
So for the front part, with the orchard, with the house, and some of the structures, like I love in Joyner Park how they have those, the old barns, and people go out there all the time and take pictures. Would it be kind of like that same sort of idea, concept?
Yeah, so the idea is to demo the existing house, which we've looked into. It's not historical. Basically take it down to its foundations, create sort of a memorial area around it, place to gather, picnic tables, also like a flower garden. So this place that's hatched is all like wildflowers. And then these sort of going through here are orchards, and the other existing buildings that are the farm structures, to your point, could be something like...
Are they something that could be salvageable? Or I have zero idea what condition that stuff is in.
It could be something like that up on the upper left-hand corner, for instance, as something that people could walk through. It could be a picnic shelter, it could be opened up, things like that.
And then for the second phase, we can call it the event venue, I don't know if this has been determined before, but is that something that the town would build and own, or is that something that we would maybe contract out? I'm just thinking about.
Yeah, so the plan is that will be something that we build and own. At this moment, we don't have, we have we have our community center that's oriented more so around community events and programming for seniors, but this will be something in talking, like when thinking about as you grow up here, how can you come back and get married here, right? And so it could be a venue that we use for our large retreats, but I think more, what we think about more so is it being an event venue that could be a driver for kind of that wedding, large event venue experience. So that when you want to have a family reunion, you can do that, because there isn't a large place like that even in this outer region that people can tap into. And you end up renting places, or you go to the barn in Wakefield, right? But this will be something that will be more accessible, but also just as beautiful. And it plays into how that land stays largely untouched back there, and you can carve out little walking trails, little scenic places, and we just think that having a piece of economic development within this will help us a lot when it comes to looking at how can we get, of course, nothing that we build will get a return that pays for itself, right? But it will be something that could be help us to bring in some revenues that's attached to it. But we would take into account if residents live here, if they don't, and things of that nature. But when we're thinking about people growing old here, we think about the senior experience, but also the kids that grow up here. Can they come and get married? Like, that's just the thing that came to the front of our minds, is having that kind of event venue, because we have several family reunions and birthdays and things that take place in the community center now, and so bringing that piece in there, I think will help. Will contribute to that event space. Then also, if you the picture in the bottom right, just the beautiful kind of taking in the scenery that's out there. When we say let's preserve the parts that are most beautiful about Rolesville and that farm property, and make it something that turns into an experience. And so this kind of parallels with that.
And is this event venue, has that been factored into the current budget, or is that something that we would have to sort of line item, it would be, further down the road?
We would have to take it into account further down the road. Right now, we have the farm project as a whole within our CIP program, but we're only have funding in there for the first, I want to say Amy's not here, 2 or 3 phases. And so with you all's acceptance of this is the direction that we're going with this master plan, we'll phase it out and look at what are some of the costs that are associated with each phase. And then we'll work to see how we can bring certain phases forward through time. And so, for example, the soccer fields are not in the current phase, but the funding that we got, that we were recently awarded, will help us bring that forward. And so we have to take that into account, like now, too.
How well did that match up with what we've done with the streets and the turn off?
Yeah. So,
I can answer that.
yes.
Yeah, so everything that's done currently that's out there, we've preserved. So we're using the current streets, the cut-in. Right now you've got built, basically, if you can see my hand, is this guy right here, and it's paved up to the property line right here on both sides, and then it turns to basically compressed gravel, which is a granular fill throughout here. Our civil engineer took a look at it, and we believe that it's in really good shape. We can just basically run some tests on it, some compaction test, and then asphalt directly over it with curb and gutter.
But we don't know how many phases it's going to take, or what will be first phase. I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, that will come next. That will come next.
That'll come next.
So, Eric, a couple months ago, we had a meeting, I think June, you were there as well, where we talked about, you guys were excited that we had a potential partnership or something with a organization to do soccer tournaments and what have you here. And it sounded like there was a need for probably more soccer fields than we could put on the entire 106 acres. And
Yes.
now it seems like it's a different concept than what we talked about back then. Is that true, or am I misstating that?
What do you mean different concept?
Well, it sounded like we were just going to have a whole bunch of soccer fields out there and have tournaments all the time. To accommodate
And
the
so
people.
we have a meeting with them tomorrow. Our conversation with them, they wanted a minimum of 5. And that would have been 3 smaller one and 2 large. But based off what we had kind of decided in the team, we're going to go back to them and have that conversation with them. We think that this 4 will still work for them since it's 2 very large, nice fields. But we didn't want to we wanted to make sure we looked at the community aspect of the overall farm park experience too. And we didn't want it to be overpowered by it just being like a soccer complex. And so if we need to pivot to maintain that relationship, then that's something that we'll just have a conversation with them over the next, but I think this will be something that they can work with and that it will still be feasible for us to have that partnership, to have that, for them to have those tournaments there.
So right now, this concept, that was a good question, Michael. I kind of forgot that discussion. But this is, because really it was much more than 4. I mean, it was a large number. I don't know how many.
It was like, I think the early iterations of it was like 6.
Yeah.
And they said that 4 or 5, they said 5 will be a good number for them. And so we landed at 4.
This is 4 small ones, 2 big ones?
2 large and 2 small.
And the 2 small can double as a large as well.
Right. If you turn the game the long way.
If you make them all, if they not make them all, but they use them all as a small, then how many is that?
That would be 6 total.
6 small.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I guess it's universal, right? You can use
well, no,
it.
the small ones are gonna be for like younger kids. Yeah, so, and it's usually, if I remember right, I wanna say it's like right around 10 or 12, then that you go up to the larger fields. And then with the baseball fields, is one more of a T-ball versus baseball? It just, on the map here, it looks like the one is significantly smaller than the other.
That's correct. We have a small field and a large field. That's right.
And would those fields primarily be utilized by our Parks and Rec, baseball and T-ball that we offer in the community, June, or would this also be, like, what other
Like a
entities, groups
No,
would?
The small field that you see, that is 60, 65-foot bases. So that would be our T-ball, our softball, our Little League, up to 12. When they get to 12 now, we start playing at 65 feet. So we could actually still do all of our rec league stuff on both of those fields. But that's just a smaller field with a shorter fence.
Okay.
So it does not take away from anything that it does, that we're currently doing. It's actually enhancing everything we got, because now on that one field, we can do everything that we can normally do on all of our
And then the
fields.
big field is,
Big field would be like 90-foot bases, 330 foot.
is that like high school baseball?
Yes, similar to our 15-year-old age group that we have right now.
Okay.
So we do have a 15-year-old rec team, so they would have to play on 90-foot bases in a bigger field.
Okay, and then with the way that this is laid out now, is it primarily just our town rec league that would be utilizing
Yes.
these? Like, there's no other kind of agreement or enticement for any other groups to come out and utilize?
No, currently right now, we would be looking at it to use for our fields, but if we look to generate revenue, there's an opportunity to actually have rent out for tournaments on weekends. So there's opportunity for that.
Okay. And that's just not a realm that my kids got into, so.
Yeah, sure, no
I know baseball is crazy, with the travel ball and everything. Would 2 fields, does that offer enough to attract anything like that, with tournaments and such with baseball?
Yes, because if you think about it, we still have Redford Place. We still have Redford Place Park.
Right.
So that'd be a total of 4 fields available where people can have a tournament at.
Okay.
And so in baseball, And just to let you know, sometime in baseball, you may have to drive from one field to the next, maybe 5, 10 minutes, it may be 20 minutes.
Okay,
But
so that's a normal?
yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, that is normal for baseball.
okay, cool, thanks.
So, I guess two questions I got. I see a lot of greenways in there. How does this connect to the underpass?
Yeah, so basically what we've done is if you can still see my hand here, we've sort of, this sort of beige line is a greenway system that sort of, it could be a cross, not a CrossFit, cross country, thank you. Cross country greenway system, but it also connects underneath. This is a future underpass right here at that little location that shows an arrow.
So that end be paved, that side?
It could be, but it doesn't have to be right now.
And I think the other question is, we had another plan that had the baseball fields. So I think it's obvious we took some of those out.
Mhm.
So what else was taken out of the field, of the original one, other than the 2 baseball, because I think it's 4 baseball fields? Did we have pickleballs and stuff like that was taken out, or what other stuff was taken out?
I don't remember.
Yeah, there were, I believe there were 4 baseball fields, and and so there are less baseball fields, but in general, it's the same amount. There's one less soccer field, and there's less baseball fields to contribute to the more event lawn space, and that's the direction we kind of went with it. Yeah.
So in overall, I love the concept. It's just, I do know, speaking to a number of folks in Rolesville, like they were looking for a place to do something like pickleball. I mean, it's, that is a smaller court. Would we be able to plan that in some place just to be able to offer, let's face it, the fields there are primarily for kids. So if adults wanted to come out and do something other than the trails, with pickleball or tennis or, oh, well, that's true, you have the indoor.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. So the activity center currently has 2 gyms in it. Those could be used for pickleball courts. We're looking at a multi-purpose surface as well that could be used for different events and different reasons. Indoor foosball or foosball, right?
Or like,
Yeah.
what is that? Are you hit against the wall?
Racquetball.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't have any racquetball.
I mean, you
courts.
can see how much of that stuff I do, so I can't even remember the names of it, but.
But multi-use courts is what we're calling it for the inside. That's correct. And then we're trying to integrate into that garage doors that sort of open the inside and outside, sort of connecting the inside gym to the outside, connecting the activity centers to the outside event lawn, things like that. We've got a porch that sort of wraps around this. If you don't mind me getting into too much detail here. We've got a porch that sort of wraps around the outside of this building. So you could have bands or things like that play out there as well. And
being
people
able
sit in
to
the event
open
lawn.
up the walls, because that would be the only hindrance, right, for folks that do like to maybe go out and play pickleball, just as the example. It's nice weather, we wanted to go outside, well, have the doors open and you still have that air. So that's a nice feature to add into that with like the garage doors.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
So how many you said gym floor, how many basketball?
So currently we have 2 planned with an expansion of a 3rd.
2 playing, so it's not high school size?
I think yes, both of their high school size.
There's 2 high school size?
So that's a 2-story building?
Nope, it's a 1-story.
Well, it's gotta be high enough for basketball. Yeah, it's probably high as a 2-story building, but it's just 1 story. Right?
Yeah, that's correct.
It probably looks like a 2-story building.
Do you know what percentage of the acreage is being used for active versus passive, and active would be like baseball fields, soccer fields versus the orchard and the other
That's a
event
good
planning
question.
spaces.
I would say about 50% of it is at least active, not including the activity center and then all the stuff around that. So just the activity center and this sort of bottom circle portion, that's about 5 acres. And then this, if you include this upper portion, that's a total of about 8 acres.
And with the orchard at the top, so I'm telling you, I'm getting us all laser pointers. That's my goal here.
Here you go, I'll go back.
Well, no, just what I wanted to is just right off to the right there. Yeah, right in there. What did you kind of have planned in that little area?
We have a dog park planned in that area.
Okay.
It's sort of an area that
Will it be fenced in for a dog park?
it could be. It's an area that to fit anything over there substantial, we'd have to shift the road that was already built.
Oh, okay.
So we left the road there in place, put a little bit of parking there. You could have you could have a vendor out there, food truck, et cetera, and then sort of, we're thinking more like a wooded dog park area.
Well, I think to expand on Commissioner Paul's statement a little bit about open air, that you don't show the property lines. There's a lot of property that is not part of that plan, right? So I know that green area, whatever that green area, and that area, some of that gray area is part of the property, I think.
That's correct, yeah. So the property line actually goes, if you can see this line
Straight
here.
line.
Yeah, it goes straight up and it connects to Lewisburg Road. And then on this side, there's actually a power line easement, and the property sort of comes down in here and then cuts back a little bit to the other side of the Perry Creek connector. Oops, sorry about that. Oh. And it sort of ends somewhere right down here in this corner, down here. But a lot of that is floodland area, where we've got a lot of the green shown, and there's streamlined buffers associated with it as well that we can't really impact too much.
Yeah, I think between that greenish gray area and that it's a straight property line there, going down there. It's a pretty good area that used to be farmland that you're not using anything, I think.
Yeah, I have this original, here we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so that gives you an overview of sort of the overall property. The power line easement is interesting in that they don't want you actually putting any sort of, definitely no buildings below it. They don't really want permanent parking below it, things like that. So this kind of needs to stay as is. And then the green lines are sort of the buffer lines of that streamline buffer that's sort of connected through here, and then is tied back in this area. And then the pink areas are flood hazard zones.
So this farm property down across the straight line down there,
Down here?
that's just going to stay like it is or something?
It is currently. The future, we have that event center plan down there that we talked about earlier.
That's down near the bottom, I'm talking about.
Yeah, down here.
Yeah, see, it goes all the way up to the top up there and it comes all the way down. See all that farm fields in there? I don't think anything's planned for that. Come, bring your cursor down.
Here.
Yeah, there all the way up to the corner.
Yep, this land.
All that's open farmland.
Yep, that's correct.
Nothing's planned for that then?
Not currently. We did take some test fits of certain things, but as you can see, that there's not a lot of the program that'll fit in that space. So for instance, like we could fit a couple of these soccer fields, the smaller soccer fields, back to back in this area. But we also tried to orient the baseball fields and the soccer fields in somewhat of a true north-south relationship, which is most ideal. It's not quite there, but it's pretty close. It's a slightly off axis to make the best use of the land.
Any other questions? So, any other question, Commissioner? What's next step then?
Our goal was to get feedback from you, and if you, and so we'll take your comments into account from here. And then we would like to get this, get an affirmative. We all don't have enough people here, I don't think, but get your affirmative on this is, your stamp of approval on this is the direction we're going and that we're going in the right direction. There may be some tweaks, and if there are any major shifts, then we'll bring that back before you. But in general, to take your feedback into account, move into cost analysis and phasing and saying these are the phases, these are the things that will be taken into account in phase 1, 1A, 1B, 2, 3, 3A and B, what have you, to show this is our strategy for implementing it. And that will also take into account the different funding sources that we have in play, the current partnerships and alternative funding sources like the $3.8 million, and then also the relationship or partnership with NCFC and any other potential ones to say this is the plan for the farm execution. And then we will just essentially dial in on that and start attacking it the way we have been attacking it, which is build with the money that we have while we find other money to build the things that come next. And just chip away at it. The goal is for it to be, us to be strategic and for you all to kind of know where we are, and for also for the community to know where we are. And then also for us to take things like the orchard, the future use of the building, give those very strong intentions, narratives, so that we can apply for grants to hopefully piecemeal and add more money to the pot with that. So right now we know that there are opportunities for that front play area that's associated with the orchard, and also there could be additional opportunities for if we partner with like a Way Tech or other community foundation to do community teaching through the community kitchen that's inside of the building to provide funding that go towards the physical structure as well. But our goal right now is to check back in with you all and get you all's approval and, well, feedback and approval on are we going in the right direction with it. Also inform you of that in the community, and then we put the plan together for execution for everything else. And so we'll be coming back before you within the next, I will say 2-3 months, and say, okay, these are the phases, this is how we are, this is the current funding for this phase, these are the phases that are not funded that we need to take into account.
I think the mayor's right. There's a bunch of land on that lower section that could be used, and Commissioner Burnett's point is well taken. Pickleball is very popular, and we would be remiss not to build courts, and it looks like we have plenty of land where we could use it for that. Because if you know, that's the old adage, you build it, they will come. And I think there's a very big shortage for players to play, and we would miss an opportunity if we didn't use it for that. So, you know,
We can also look at those long kind of like active connectors, and those may have the size. Maybe we think through what the surface is, and to where we can do pop up, like back to back to back, end to end, outside in the sun playing on that walkway during certain times. And so we'll definitely look at that and see how we can do that. I think pickleball is something that we can actually figure out how to work into it earlier, because it doesn't need a building, it just needs a flat surface, and they come with their own stuff.
And
so
again, like I said, we have so much here for kids, which obviously is the big draw, but we do have so many, adults and even older folks that like to have a place like that to be able to utilize. Yeah, and even with some of that, and again, it's hard to talk because like we see it here, but to know exactly the scale of it. But with some of that extra like land at the bottom there, like where the proposed future event site, if we did have somebody like this, and I'm spitballing here, okay guys, I know I'm the new kid on the block and maybe you've spitballed this stuff like, 2 years ago, but community gardens, you know, if, maybe working with like the garden club in Pam. I don't know if that's something that would be a possibility. And maybe the food that was,
So if I could add, one of the problems with the lower portion of this property is it's landlocked, is that you don't have access to it from the south side, or I should say, from this bottom side here. So we're having to create basically, connecting over this ditch area is not that big of a deal. We can do that with a culvert, but this will most likely need some sort of bridge construction.
okay.
So is that going to be going to a parking lot on the other side? Where does that go?
Yeah, this goes to a parking lot on the other side for
Are
the
you
event
okay
center.
using that dam for that?
So the dam that's in here would need to be repaired eventually. We did look at that and study it.
Actually, two dams, where you got the,
Yep,
where you got the
Here
road
and
going
here.
through. That's a dam right there too.
That's correct.
That's the big dam.
yep. Both of them need to be repaired, long
We'll be
term.
driving over the dam to park.
Yeah, we're rebuilding it, right? Any other questions? But to Jen, to your point, that's kind of why we strayed away from putting a lot of activity, at least the activity that we knew that we could get within this first few phases on the other side of the stream buffer.
Accessibility, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I haven't been out on the site, I know where it's at, but I haven't walked all that part, so
Yeah.
take your word for it. Thank you.
Yeah, I really don't have a concern with the concept unless you guys do. I think the concern I want to see is the timeline and when we're going to start on it, how we're going to progress on it. And, I mean,
Basically, right now, you just need our blessing to keep moving forward. Okay, you
Yep.
have my blessing on it too, to keep moving forward.
who's going to
At
manage
least one.
Yeah, that will be a whole effort.
Who's going to manage it?
The project?
Yeah. Are we going to have owner management like we do with other projects, or?
This is a little bit more straightforward, and it's not in the right of way, which makes it easier to tackle. It's brought on our town engineer. If we need to have a project manager, ADW will continue to be involved the same way they are on the municipal complex. If they make a recommendation that we need to have an owner's rep, then we can look into that. But it doesn't seem to be as multifaceted in having like 7 buildings being built at once. And since it's out of the right of way and it's kind of like fully in our span of control, and we don't have as many restrictions on wetlands that need to be navigated, I think we could do this one internal in partnership with the architect and everyone. And so we could carry them over into the build phase. But that's something we can definitely assess on like who's going to manage it. So.
Yeah, also,
I think the concern, we budget for this last July. I mean, we've had the budget for this since last July. And now, you're saying it's probably a couple months, maybe 2 or 3 months before we even see it again. I don't know. I would love to see somehow to speed up the process or make it more where, we actually get it done.
Okay.
So, we got it set in the budget, it's not being spent, right?
Yeah.
And then we got a grant that we can use.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just throwing it out there, is there any reason why, I know you got the orchard up in that one section, what about putting that type of area down in the lower section if it's accessible from a pedestrian standpoint, maybe that's a better use of the land than using more prime land for that orchard up in the upper right corner.
Yeah, we had talked through that, and we're talking about the noise from the highway and how about putting in trees, it'd create like a sound buffer, and kind of like turn that into a more set apart area. Because right now, if we don't put anything on that, it'll be kind of like a field beside a major highway, and it'll kind of create a certain kind of experience. We can look at that though and see what we can do to kind of rectify that. But that was what we're thinking is like, how do we grow up the area? Because right now it's very flat farmland. It doesn't have any shaded areas. You just stand out there in the beam and sun.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do we create certain things?
Yeah, we did look at the rec center, basically up in that parcel, as well as where over the baseball field to the right is, and then also to the further left. It felt best in the center where we got it, sort of in the heart of the park. To the north, we did go out there and take decibel readings as well. It was pretty loud, and the fear is that with the activity center up on that portion of property, the best adjacency for that would be the playground, and then the playground would be adjacent to the highway. And same thing with the event center. So the event center, playground, and activity center sort of are in the heart of the property now. We did look at shifting that all the way to the north, but all of that activity, et cetera, it just was really loud and took up all the property.
Thoughts, questions?
I think it looks great. I'm looking forward to seeing what's in phase one.
Yep.
That's two phases.
I know the town's excited to get this moving, so.
All right. Thank you much.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
June, anything you want to add?
No, sir. He did a wonderful job, I'm gonna say.
June, anything additional you want to add before we start?
No, I think that ADW and Darren them did a great job of coming to us and giving us different ideas and ways to approach this farm. And and just like you said, just the whole concept of having everything in the center kind of branches out. And like I said, that's the heart of the park.
Yeah.
I think that's a good job.
Thank you, June. Appreciate you guys. Okay, next item is Pound Code Section 92, chickens and rabbits. I think Christy and Stephen are going to tag team that, so who's going first?
I'll start first.
All right.
All right. Good evening, Board, and happy St. Patrick's Day. My name is Christy Frazier. I'm the town clerk. This next presentation addresses the town's code regarding resident owning chickens and rabbits on residential property. During November 6, 2025, the board meeting, a small number of residents expressed interest in keeping chickens and rabbits on their property and had inquired whether the code could be updated to allow this certain condition. The purpose of bringing this before the board is to provide information on the existing code, requests brought forward by our residents, and to review how surrounding towns address similar matters. At this time, the planning director, Stephen Winsman, will provide further insight into zoning regulations, potential amendments, and direction from the board on this. Stephen?
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So currently, Section 92 of the Town Code regulates chickens and rabbits, including other animals. Regarding chickens, it has to be zoned residential, 150 feet separation from most types of adjacent development. It must be in a closed area, and it must be on a property 2 acres or more in size. Rabbits in the code are considered with the definition of livestock, and they are prohibited within 150 feet of any dwelling. So just a little backup, HOAs have the ability to self-regulate, and they typically have codes that are stricter than town regulations and most often prohibit rabbits or chickens. So I know the particular applicant was interested and said that their HOA was in favor of this amendment, but I can tell you most do not allow. We did try to pull the HOAs, but we haven't got any responses yet. We checked with the police department. The police department has had very few instances, complaints about chickens or rabbits in recent years. So there currently isn't any real issues with it. And if we did go ahead with some kind of ordinance that allowed it more broadly throughout the town, something to consider is we have no code enforcement. The way it's working now, I mean, the way we have it now is working because we're not generating complaints. But had we generated complaints, we really don't have any means to deal with it. And then we did check with other municipalities to see what they're doing. Wake Forest has an ordinance. They prohibit roosters. A lot of similar considerations. They allow it in more residential districts than we do. Town of Garner also have some regulations. Roosters are prohibited. Seems like more widely allowed in residential districts. Although I can tell you in Garner, almost all the neighborhoods, most of the neighborhoods are HOA controlled. And so therefore you probably don't have, the most of the town, which is fairly new, probably doesn't allow roosters or chickens because of the HOA. Nightdale, again, similar type of a mix of districts that allow them, somewhat similar codes to the other towns. And Wendell. So staff just kind of looked at what we have, and again, we think it works pretty well. If we're not generating complaints, it does allow on the larger properties to have the chickens and rabbits. Our current code references the UDO, which is no longer in force. So that is an amendment that could happen to make it refer to the LDO. Our code has no prohibition on roosters, where it probably should. Horses are listed as domestic animals and livestock in our code, so there's a conflict there, could be fixed. Right now, the code says it's the Board of Commissioners that decides whether a person can have a permit for chickens or rabbits. I don't know of anyone ever having come forward to get a permit. And typically, in most municipalities, it's just an administrative procedure. And then also, under Chapter 92.09 and 92.10, it just talks about permitting. And that is something, if the town wished, we could do an online permit process.
Another question.
Sure.
So if the town didn't have something in place and an HOA was stricter for the HOA, they would prohibit it. So I understand that part. And just talking out loud. Then Wake Forest, Garner, Nightdale, when you spoke with them, did you happen to ask if they had complaints about any complaints that they would have?
I didn't, but we prohibited them in Smithfield, and we had a lot of chickens in Smithfield, and we had a lot of complaints. So,
If I can interject on that one, Commissioner Sneed, I did speak to Wake Forest. I spoke to the code enforcement officer, and actually all of the surrounding towns have a code enforcement officer. And the gentleman that I spoke to in Wake Forest said one of the #1 complaints were the people that had chickens would get roosters. They would not follow the regulations that were required. So that is the issue that took place with them.
And they have a code enforcement.
Yes, all of the surrounding towns have a code enforcement officer. You're welcome.
Honestly, I feel like we have so many HOAs here in Rolesville, and they're just going to say, no. Because also, like, the property lots are just so much smaller, so it is very inhibited. How much of the town population would be, like, let's say it was even an acre or a half acre?
Not good
That
enough.
doesn't have an HOA.
Yeah, they're not eligible.
That if we were to change anything on here. I just, you know, most of the neighborhoods around here do have an HOA, and they're just gonna mix it. And, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, what places would there be that, you know, how many actual homes would fit in the parameter where there's no HOA involved, that they would have a decent amount of land, you know, not like a quarter acre or something.
I would say probably 400 to 500.
A lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's probably, it's less than 1,000 people that was before HOAs. So I'm thinking about 400, maybe 500. 500 probably high side.
And we would have to have a code enforcement officer, correct? Like if we don't have, and is there anything else that a code, like, is a code enforcement officer something that, as we're growing, we need at any point anyhow, or I just don't know what it is.
Yes, we would. Right now, even though we don't have a code enforcement officer, that doesn't mean we don't have code enforcement. Just want to clarify that.
Is it?
We do have code enforcement. It's just it's a three-legged stool that does our code enforcement, and that's PD, Public Works, and planning, and they kind of flip the coin depending on how relevant it is to whomever. So there's certain things that are going on, like, you know, shooting and people having gun range. That's more like we throw that towards PD. If it's a fence, we move it towards planning. If it's a ditch that's overgrown that needs to be, we go towards Public Works. And so just wanted to clarify that one. But yes, a code enforcement officer is something that we did have at one point in time, and that capacity was lent to the management of permits and turned into a permit technician. And we do have that I have it in the front of our mind, and we all have it in the front of our minds, because each one of the department heads, respective department heads, would love to see that capacity centralized in a single person. And so
you feel like it's on the horizon?
Yes, it's definitely on the horizon. It's something that we're planning for, is having a code enforcement officer, yeah.
Okay.
Does it make sense to the board to move forward with these technical corrections to the code to clean that up, and then the substantive restriction to prohibit roosters? That's the question for the board
Yes.
to really be talking
And we
about.
can bring it before you on the consent agenda.
Yeah, I'm good with cleaning it up.
It's working.
And as far as I know, we haven't heard anything about rabbits other than we treat them as livestock. It's not as big an issue across Wake County communities as chickens.
I was gonna say, I mean, rabbits are pretty quiet, you know, and if somebody wanted to have a few rabbits, but I don't know how you would differentiate all of that. But chickens can be a problem just because of the noise and poop everywhere, and then again, you know, people getting a rooster when they're not supposed to.
Did anybody request for a rabbit? How did that come up? How did the rabbits get included?
So it was during the November 6th board meeting.
And he was specifically asking about
Yes.
rabbits, right?
Yes, he was specific about chickens and rabbits.
Gotcha.
Yes. Ben Partridge was the rep.
I mean,
When it comes to code enforcement, don't the HOAs enforce the code that they have?
They do not have the power to enforce the code. They can only enforce their own declaration.
Yeah, I'm talking about if HOA has either for or against,
Prohibition upon livestock and
Yeah.
animals other than 3 dogs and cats combined, they'll take care of that with their own process internally. We would never hear about it.
right, so if they don't have a provision, that's when we have to.
Correct. So your neighborhood would be the place where the town code would be
Right.
the set
Or
the floor.
Any homeowner association that don't have a provision.
Or any,
one way or the other.
correct, that's right. Most of them, if we say a modern planned community since 2000, they'll have something about animals.
I mean, I don't understand how all this works, but if we took rabbits out of the definition of livestock, I don't really have a problem with that, but it's just, again, is that a technical thing? I just think that chickens and then it leads to roosters, and that's the cause of issues with neighbors.
So when you all contacted the other municipalities, was rabbits mentioned? Did they say if there are any problems with rabbits? I don't raise rabbits, I don't know anything about rabbits. Did they say that there were any issues with rabbits? They are aware of any?
I didn't actually do the calling. Meredith did the calling, but I'm not sure if she really focused on rabbits, but I don't believe rabbits were the issue. I mean, I think keeping of many rabbits, like a lot of rabbits, would be an issue. I think one is a pet, you know what I mean? Probably wouldn't even fall on a radar screen for a complaint or anything.
So, so this is just cleanup, and I think the board, from what I understood, was okay you proceeding with the cleanup here. I think Dave recommends proceeding with the cleanup because it's got bad wording in there.
Well, certainly. Taking roosters out is a substantive change. I happen to have my direct neighbor in the backyard has a rooster, I think I've mentioned to you. And he becomes a part of your family. He's a great guy, but we know about him every morning.
So the 2-acre thing will stay in there.
Yeah, we're not recommending any change.
Eliminates every house in Rolesville except for maybe 5. So it makes all this moot, right?
Pretty much, but if you just clean up the definition to
just to make it-
CYA.
But I'm just saying that
It's very limiting.
we're going to, and that's, if that's what you want, we're going to
The
continue.
initial guidance from the board was there was not interest in making a change necessarily, but that staff was instructed to investigate. This is the response to the investigation, not a suggestion to necessarily do anything, just closing the loop.
Okay.
That's a fair statement. I just want the board to understand that we're still prohibiting, because you're going to get calls maybe, I think we still have at least 3 people that's waiting for this decision, right? All through town. One of them's in the village, one of them's in Granite Falls, and I can't remember what other one.
Well, I don't know where the other person lives exactly, just
Right. So just clarity, you're still prohibiting all of that.
So effectively, by making the cleanup, a future board may decide to begin to shrink the acreage requirement because you'll have a safety net in place and you'll be able to perhaps slowly move that down until the amount of complaints achieves wherever Garner and Wake Forest are at, that is the challenge. Raleigh has plenty of rabbits, I'll just throw out from anecdotal evidence, but most of them are indoor rabbits, in which case they're a cat, they're a dog. The individuals I think who are asking about this are talking about outdoor rabbitat kind of structures and that sort of thing that potentially would fall into where you would say livestock. But if you were to strike rabbit from the livestock definition, it just would be treated the same way the town treats dogs and cats. So not a difficult change.
So I guess my last question, when you're looking here about this permit thing, and we've had permits before, it's long before your time or anybody else, probably around here. But we've had permits, especially kids that want to, educational thing to have chickens. And we've had that. We've had them come to the board and ask for that. But there's no active permits, I don't think, right? Is that what you're saying? That you know?
Not that we're aware of.
Not you're aware of. And I don't know how long they last either. But people can still ask for permits. These folks that she's dealing with can ask for a permit.
Apparently.
And the board can grant that?
That's what the code says.
Well, no, the board would not be able to, as far as, no, the requirements are there and then there's a permit. So these are the objective standards, and then it was still a discretionary permit. Presumably, the person would come forward with a plot plan or something showing how they were going to deal with the coop and that sort of idea. Normally, that's handled at the staff level. That was my best read as to this very old provision from, I think, 87 was when that was put in. That's the best read on that. Certainly, if the board were to reduce the acreage, you would get more permit requests, and perhaps you want to have that as a legislative decision, but I'm guessing probably not.
So only the handful 4 or 5 can even ask for a permit now. That's what you-
Correct, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It really is more of an administrative permit, which is how it would be handled at the staff level. Check the boxes, get the permit.
Any other questions, thoughts? You got direction?
All right. I'll work with Christina and get things cleaned up.
Thanks, Stephen, appreciate that. We do have a, let's see, yeah, we do have a continuation of a legislative hearing, TA 2511, which is land use text amendment for buffer yards. I think, Stephen, you're going to kick that off, maybe?
Sure, Mayor and Council. So text amendment 2511 was continued from the February 3rd town board meeting, and to allow time to update the notes for the perimeter buffers 2L and 3L to increase plant materials and define level of opacity. So the applicant is a private developer, and the idea is to eliminate fences and walls and perimeter buffers between residential zoning districts. And this has been a topic of numerous board work sessions and joint work sessions. And this item has also been something on staff's radar screen to address in future amendments anyway. So this particular developer has a similar interest. So the proposal is in the type 2, actually, and type 3 buffers, to allow landscape materials only and a fence not being required. The perimeter buffers would have twice the amount of landscape materials than a typical type 2 buffer to achieve a maximum of 75% opacity from the ground to 6 feet in height. That buffer would have 4 evergreen trees per 100 feet, either a tree or an understory tree, and 50% of the plant materials would have to be evergreen. So instead of the wall or fence, you would have double the landscaping and some evergreen trees within that buffer. And 50% of the plant material would have to be evergreen to reach that same opacity that you would get with a wall. The type 3 is really the same language, the same effect, displacing the wall in exchange for the plant material. And this is the table that would illustrate where that would take effect. So it's really between residential districts only. And just for your benefit, this is our current type 1 buffer. We have 4 types of buffers. This is currently the type 1. And that's our current type 2. And so what we'd be doing, this is for illustrative purposes, it's not part of the code amendment. The graphics are not part of the code amendment, but this is generally the effect. You'd be adding those extra coniferous trees in that buffer and doubling the plant material with evergreens. And then again, this is our current type 3 with the wall. The wall goes away, and again, you get the doubling of the plant materials and the evergreen trees to try to reach that same opacity.
Can I see this, one more, go back one more?
This one? This is existing code.
Okay.
And so That wall goes away, and we're displacing it with more landscaping.
Stephen, do we have a cost differential between the current situation and the proposed for linear foot or development or anything?
No, that wasn't really the objective. The objective for staff was just achieving the same end in terms of buffering.
Well, it's not the same end because the wall is impervious and, you know, there could be safety issues, it could be trespass issues that are, you know, safeguarded with the wall, whereas the foliage is just providing a barrier of sorts, but it's really not, it's not impervious, so anyone could walk through it, so.
Understood.
So I would imagine that the only reason to do it is because it's cheaper.
I'm sure that is a big
Valid
factor.
reason, but, you know, there are other factors at play in this besides just the cost.
Yeah, that's not the only reason. Prime example, one that they kind of waiting on this decision is between your Joel Fund and that old house there. Neither one of them want it. They don't want a wall.
Okay.
They don't want a wall, beside his house, and they'd rather for it not to be there.
Sorry?
Than to have this 6-foot
They could.
wall all along that property. So neither side want it, but by code, they have to do it.
Have to, they can't waive it.
They can't waive. And
That's
if
right.
we could waive it, it'd be one thing, but we can't waive it, so
We can't waive our own self-imposed rule.
evidently.
But with the Joel Fund and with that house, though, you're not talking two residential.
No. I guess,
So, I mean, what we're talking about here is residential and residential. So would that still even,
no, this is commercial, right? Correct?
I
no,
believe it's residential to residential.
yeah, it's residential to residential.
Apply to that situation. Mr. Town Attorney, can we waive our own
You don't
rule?
have to put a wall between residential and residential.
You do between high and low.
Oh,
So we have that matrix, you'll remember from the
Yep.
prior meetings, we put up there with the 1s and 3s. It looks, that sort of a,
Joel Fund.
there you go. This is the critical piece of the text amendment that's before you, and is to create L options at that lower level in the, in this area.
So this is for new developments moving forward,
Correct.
Correct.
so any existing development, is something going to happen to that wall, a wall will be.
So you're saying like a fire or casualty, or?
I don't know, if they fell down, I don't know.
It would have to be maintained. Yeah, it would have to be maintained, just like the landscaping, sure.
Exactly the way it is right now.
Yeah, if it's part of the official approval of that development, you'd have to maintain it.
Correct. But it's not retroactive, so this is, everyone develops and then occupies and uses under the law at the time they were approved. It's when they do something new with the property that they have to do something else. As to the question, the first rule is that you have to follow your own rules. So the government has to follow the law as well, so we don't have the ability to waive our laws except through the process authorized by statute, which is a variance. The case that mentioned by the mayor was the Joel Fund case, and they did seek a variance, and the variance was denied, I believe, by a 4-to-1 vote. Because that is general commercial to residential low, which isn't even captured in this text change. That is a 3 on the table.
Who voted no against that?
I do not know, and it's still pending appeal. But
Is it the Board of Adjustment?
there was only 1 vote for the variance, and there were 4 votes against the variance.
Yeah, but is it, what is the panel that was voting? Was it the
The Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustments?
The Board of Adjustment makes all determinations on variances, and those determinations are made on the basis of evidence presented and impacts. And that's the basis upon which they made their decision with that evidence.
Because, and Michael, to your question before, right, about asking about like the buffering, one of the examples, I remember from whenever this was, which meeting it was, that brought it up. So the way it's written now, a new development pops up here, they gotta build a wall. And then next door is another development, comes up, well then, they gotta build a wall. And then you just have like this dead space and there's no connectivity and, I mean, I think that from residential to residential, so long as that density is there with the trees and not so much shrubs, trees to keep the opacity. I think that it lends to the whole connectivity and walkability with residential spaces. But if you start talking about residential and commercial, there still has to be that wall buffer, which with this scenario, that's what we're saying anyhow, correct?
Yes, it's not changing.
Residential medium.
That was what Dave was speaking with the C.
Right, so it would be still number 3.
No, GC to residential low.
Yeah, because we had that question about, well, what does 35, I think originally it was like, what, 25 to 35% opacity, and we're like, we have zero idea what that means. I mean, I think that the denser that buffer is, the better. And where are those in the LDO? It's 6.2.
6.2.2.1 is the table.
So I'm looking here with Joel Fund. It says they rezone 3 parcels from current residential low district to general commercial condition zone in GCZ. So you're saying it doesn't require a wall on your chart for them to do that? Is that what you're saying, Dave?
It does require a
Says,
wall.
this text change does not apply in any way to those 2 properties.
With the commercial property?
It is only a change as to adjacent residential properties, residential on residential.
This is the type 3 buffer that they would need to construct.
Correct. And a determination was made, just because everyone's interested in this and it's a work session. The disturbance that they had and language of the ordinance is such that complying with this portion of the standard is only required as to the front yard or the front parking lot area of the new commercial use, not the area at the back that is relatively undisturbed, as that essentially maintains its nature under its current status. So kind of along the same ideas, does someone have to change when we change the rule? The staff determination was no change needed to be made other than where a commercial parking lot was being put in adjacent to a residential low house.
But it still will have to do the 6-foot block wall.
Correct. That's correct. Unless the board were to change the ordinance with regard to general commercial and residential low.
I think where the Joel Foundation is, it would be more aesthetically pleasing in that community area without it. I understand that they have to have it.
But I'd be afraid to open up that can of worms saying that it's just trees, because we already have that issue going forth with Atticus Woods and Elizabeth Springs, with the commercial portion bumping up to the residential.
Yeah. It's unfortunate we couldn't say that, want that.
We certainly would not.
Can the Joel Fund be, there's no other,
The Joel Fund could sell that property tomorrow. The rules that are in place run with the land. So it's now zoned for general commercial. So it doesn't really matter who the owner is.
no, yeah, I know, I'm just saying, is there another zoning, because it's considered a nonprofit, correct, Joel Fund?
It is,
assuming.
which has to do with their taxes, but they're running an office and an educational center out of it.
Right, I just wasn't sure if there was there's no other zoning that would be able to encompass the uniqueness
I don't know, they were the applicant on it.
of a nonprofit.
So moving on, so this affects just the type 2 and type 3, residential or residential. And just for reference, this is our existing type 4 buffer with a berm. And the applicant is here, Gabe Cunningham. He's got 3 slides he wanted to show you.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate your time this evening. As Stephen mentioned, my name is Gabe Cunningham. I'm with Lock 7 Development, who is the applicant of this text amendment. Stephen did a really great job in sort of explaining the text amendment, so I'll try not to repeat anything. I did want to go over some of the updates to the currently proposed text amendment. These 3 updates as shown on screen were addressing feedback that was received from both the Board of Commissioners as well as town planning staff. There was concerns that with the removal of the wall, the visibility between the 2 different properties would not be equal if the wall was there. To address that, we increased our evergreen commitment from 35% to 50%. So now half of the plantings will have to be evergreens. We also proposed that the overall planting commitments, that's including both trees, understory trees, as well as shrubs, will be doubled. Previously, we had proposed 25%, but now we're proposing double, or 100% of what's currently in place. And then again, mentioning the visibility and the opacity between the 2 properties, we increased that and added that the opacity minimum would be 75%. As you see in the sort of the image at the bottom, that sort of shows the spacing as well as some of the plant material that could be considered with this proposed text amendment. Again, this is the same sort of section as one of our other projects in Fuquay Varina. That section was also subject to a 50% evergreen requirement. These were the plant types that were used in that section. Funny enough, we actually went above the 50% minimum. So all plant materials included in that section were evergreens with the exception of the trident maple. So the majority of the plants used were evergreen. And then I also have another image of a potential section of plantings. As you can see, there are many more plantings that were present as compared to currently implemented buffers. You can see both in the addition of multiple trees, understory trees, and shrubs. That's all I had for you guys this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Question?
David, would this proposed change remove that situation that Commissioner Burnett was talking about, namely if we had a residential development, build a wall, and then a subsequent one build adjacent, there'd be a second wall?
Yes, assuming that that's what the applicants elected to do following the text change. That is, there's no change to the side that the wall goes on in the proposal that staff has presented. Rather, the belief is that one or both will elect not to do the wall, so you'll have vegetation for the full width on both sides.
That affects both sides.
Yeah,
Yeah, get rid of that redundancy.
literally and figuratively, it will grow organically.
And just it would look so much nicer too out in your backyard.
Thank you.
You know, question. I just have one. In the December planning board meeting, I think we mentioned that it was unanimously approved with the consideration of additional plantings at a rate of 25%. So was all that taken care of?
Yes, sir. We added that to our previously proposed text amendment that we would commit to 25% increased plantings. After feedback from the board as well as plant staff in the February 3rd meeting, we heard that we needed to bump that up. So we are now committing to doubling the original, what is in place right now. So it's no longer the 25%, but now 100%, so double what is currently in place.
That's more than what they even recommend.
Yes, sir.
For clarity, none of this has to do with the applicant or the applicant's project. This is purely the town's ordinance and would apply to everyone similarly situated with the same adjacent zoning circumstance. And the board is not in any way limited by the applicant's proposal for your discussion and what sort of a change you might want to make. The terms like commitment are usually the sort of things you hear in the context of a zoning case condition. We would commit to doing something more. Here, whatever you adopt just becomes the new minimum.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you even told us what the proposal was. Do we know which project you're doing? I'm not even sure.
Probably better we don't know.
I don't know. The board will know, but I don't know. Any other discussion?
I personally, like, and this is, yeah, to back that up really quick though, is that picture there a picture of like what we're talking about as far as us changing the LDO, or is this picture essentially say what you are saying you're committing to? So
This is a representative image to just sort of give you an idea of what it could look like. This is not attached to the text amendment to be adopted into the LDO.
okay, yeah, I was just trying to understand.
I apologize.
Because there's, I mean, I think there's two different things
Right.
happening, and you were basically committing to something that was a little bit more than what we were just looking.
So let's get staff to put the proposed text amendment back up.
Thank you.
So that you can see what the numerical standards are going to be, but they do match as to 75% opacity.
Yes. Then go back to that text.
Any other questions? Stephen, take a quick look at that sheet and see if there's any signatures, anybody signing on
Ann Robertson was the only name.
that. Yours?
Ann Robertson, and she was already speaking.
Oh, okay, yeah, she was with that other one.
Yes.
Right, that wasn't you. All right, any other comments, any closing thoughts? Because I'm gonna gavel this thing closed.
Are we voting on anything right now, or what are we
We
just?
can, it's up to you
Okay.
guys.
You have a quorum.
Yeah, this is quorum.
So the next part of this is just for a decision, we have to discuss the consistency with the comp plan, and staff does believe it's consistent. And the explanation is here. I'm not going to go through it. Again, the planning board recommended approval, and staff is recommending approval based on the consistency with the comp plan.
Okay, any closing thoughts for anybody? Okay. I'm gonna close this legislative hearing, and it's up to the board. I will call for a vote, but it's up to the board whether they want to make a motion or not, and second to, we can vote, but it's up to you guys.
I'll make a motion to approve PA 2511 LDO text amendment to require perimeter buffers because it is consistent with the comprehensive plan for the following reason, that it improves the connectivity in the community. Thanks, Jim.
No worries.
All right, so I got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion to second. Is there any further discussion? Not hearing you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not hearing. It's unanimous. Approved. Ayes have it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
It'll go down as unanimous.
Mayor, before we move on to the next item, in the context of zoning, you've now set a more flexible floor for a plan to come forward, but there may very well be circumstances where you determine that more of a buffer is needed, or a wall, for example, is needed. And now that will be within your legislative discretion in coordination with an applicant, rather than it being a one-size-fits-all, which is actually something you were just complaining about.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Sounds good. Next item is development review fees. Everybody good without taking a break, or we want to take a break before Stephen starts this one?
You okay?
Yes? Everybody good? All right. Maybe we'll take one at 8:30 if we get to that far. So I'll kind of set this one up a little bit before I turn it over to Stephen. You know, we're trying to promote commercial, right? That's what we've been trying to promote for a long time. And unfortunately, a lot of these commercial people tells me that it's very costly to do business in Rolesville, to build something. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money. It's not easy, those type of things. And one of the things has to do with money, fees and stuff. So I think Stephen is taking a look at that. Because you know, if we promote commercial, we got to figure out how to do it where we don't drive people away. And that's kind of where we're at today.
All right.
So take over.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
So this will be short. Just a couple years ago, I know when Meredith was the planning director, she did a review of fees, and she proposed an adjustment to our fees. And a lot of the fees were kept lower because we do have this outside consultant that does the inspections, and those fees are being passed on. So this is just an illustration to show that we have recently updated our fee structure. And I've been told it's taken into account the differences between municipalities that do and do not pass fees through, development review fees. So these are some of the neighboring communities and how they handle engineering review. So at our staff, planning does the planning review in-house, but we contract with Bolton and Menk to do the TRC, the Technical Review Committee engineering reviews and reviews of as-built drawings. They spend their time reviewing our drawings as a consultant. They invoice the town. The town then passes those invoices on to the developer. So it's just a pass-through fee. Because we do not have engineering in-house, although we did just hire an engineer, but I don't believe they're going to be doing engineering review of new development.
Yeah, one thing I'll mention before you get too far in is, you know, all three of these are pretty good far away. You know, the builders, a lot of builders I'm talking about, they can make a decision, well, Raleigh, Wake Forest, or Rolesville is this community here. So how do we compare to Wake Forest and Rolesville? Because it's a lot of these Wake Forest developers that really, you know, sees the difference in the fees between Wake Forest. If they go over the line and build in Wake Forest, it's much different than building in Rolesville. And they can make a choice sometimes, right? So I understand Wendell, Nightdale, and Zetlin are a little small town, but we're dealing with Wake Forest and Raleigh.
Well, honestly, I don't know personally. I mean, Meredith did the review. The difference is these are the smaller towns, and the small towns that tend to have outside consultants because they don't have a robust staff to do it. I'm guessing that Wake Forest has the staff to do engineering review in-house, and they probably don't pass those fees on to developers because it's part of their application fee and the salary that they pay those employees. So I'm making an assumption, but that's probably why they've been left off this list, as with Raleigh, because Raleigh clearly has the staff to do the fees, I mean, just based on the fees that they charge. So being a small town, we sought out what the other small towns were doing, And as you can see, most do pass on engineering review fees directly to the applicants.
Yeah, so again, back to the mayor's point, we're competing with Wake Forest, we're not competing necessarily with Nightdale. So we've got to look at our fees and see how we stand up against Wake Forest, because we're trying to encourage those developers to come here, not there. And not necessarily just us and them, but we want them to come here, and that's the proximate competitor, and we have to be competitive with them.
So how do we do that without us eating the engineering fees for all these plans and things that are coming?
I don't know unless you, I think,
Or somebody.
unless you estimate what those, here's the thing they run into. Most places, if they go to Raleigh and Wake Forest, for example, they pay the fee and they're done. Right. They pay the fee, they write the check, and they're pretty much done. They know what the fees are. Where it feels like here, they pay a fee, but then they're nickel and dime all the way down the line with extra.
Yeah, but that initial fee at Raleigh and Wake Forest may incorporate.
It's probably higher.
Yeah, and
So it probably is higher, and we just need to know.
I'll add that the initial fee is going to be higher, and they also pay for re-review fees. So every time they have to come back, they have to look again, they get fee. There's another fee, and there's another fee. So every time
Our
somebody,
argument should be that
in all of the larger municipal places. And so, but I think the issue, part of it is that when that bill shows up, it has the city of Raleigh's name on it. And I think we may encounter here in all these other places that when the bill shows up, it doesn't have our name on it. It has Bolton and Mink, or it has somebody else that and so for them, I think that they may feel like that they could achieve certain things at a cheaper rate if they did it themselves. But at the end of the day, when it comes to us ensuring that the integrity of the things that we are accepting, our streets, our sidewalks, our roads, the stormwater control elements, then we can't give that engineering oversight power away, because ultimately we'll accept something, it'll fail, and be like, who did it? And then it'll be like Kimley Horn, and like, who's Kimley Horn working for? That developer. Well, Kimley Horn will be like, don't look at me.
So here's a question then, with the as you spoke, we did hire a new engineer, so we're having the engineering department with Rolesville. Would it be feasible to have the engineering plan review being done in-house, where we just charge a higher fee, or is that not going to be his role? I guess it's a cost-effective analysis, right?
Yeah.
If we were to hire another, and I don't know how many people it would take, I don't know if there's different specialty levels, I don't know. But the question would be a cost-effective analysis. Would it be better for us to have that in-house, as far as, streamlining everything, having everything in-house, charge the appropriate fee for the in-house versus things coming to us and then, okay, now we got to send it over here, make sure they get their stamp of approval, it comes back. So I think it's a bigger question as to, would it make more sense, would it be more cost-effective to have another one or two engineers within the department to be able to do this stuff in-house? And I don't know the answer to that.
Definitely look into that. And you are correct in saying it's a bigger issue. Right now, we don't know where that person would sit if we hired them. Because we're fighting for space. And so we'll be bringing another lease in front of you for the current engineering department that we have approved in the current planning department to co-locate them. We don't know where we even sit that person. And so there's an infrastructure cost that comes with the person, because a lot of these other municipalities have all these big buildings, they got town halls, they all this, and they just stick another person in some space they have. We don't even have square footage to, and unfortunately, we're slowly becoming the biggest competitor with our own commercial market by obtaining administrative space for us to have where it could be a business. And so we can look at the cost benefit analysis and like, what are the other impacts on that?
Because are there other things
It
that
could save them, it would save them money, but would it eliminate the fact that they would be paying a fee for the engineering? It would not.
I guess because we could control that cost more if it was in-house versus continually sending it out for another review.
I mean, a developer does have some cost control measures. They can hire an engineer that does a very thorough study of our code and submit a plan that is pretty darn close to what needs to be approved. Usually you'll go through one TRC review, they respond to the comments, they send it back in, gets approved. It gets costly though when it's 2 or 3.
Right.
Which some developers, some engineers, you're going to see 2 or 3 because they don't really do the time up front to prepare the plans to meet our codes.
Yeah,
So-
we shouldn't have to pay for that. So at some point, engineers will make sense. We may not have enough work to hire in-house, but that being said, we've got outside engineers, so we need to control that cost, and maybe we can get a more of a flat fee per project, and if they don't do their work up front, they eat that extra cost, not us, and then we can provide some greater certainty to the developers as to what it's going to cost. We just roll that into our fees so that it looks like it's a fee from the town of Rolesville and not from 2 or 3 consultants on top of the town.
Or can we just give them a number, and then the invoices come through the town? I don't know how it's done already, but can we give them a number? Here's your number, $100,000. I don't know. And then, but this number is for all these different things. And so it all comes through the town, so, and if they, am I making any kind of sense?
Basically rewrite the
That makes
invoice
sense.
so that they're paying the town and then the town would remit. So it doesn't look like, oh, I'm paying Raleigh XYZ Corporation for something.
And it's not just Raleigh, a lot of them is engineering companies.
Yeah.
Yes, it
We're
is.
just making, I understand your point, it's essentially just, and there is
Yeah, and there's,
work.
I understand what you're saying, and that's something we can look into. But when we pivot on that, it adds an administrative cost. So at this point now, we're already, people within our finance department are saying, can you please pay this invoice from Bolton and Meek? Can you please pay it? Because when they don't pay it, the engineering company reaches out to us. Our engineering firm, Bolton and Meek, says they have not paid this. And so we end up having to not look at their plans or not give a permit or not doing this. So we become the accountability person.
Yeah, but Eric, if we are the general contractor, and we've cut a deal, if you will, have a contractual arrangement with the engineer, so that on a given project, we know how much they're gonna charge us, and then we charge our fee, which incorporates all those lesser fees, and we get that money up front from the developer, then the engineer's gonna get paid. And the other subcontractors are gonna get paid, because we're the ones that are handling that, rather than piecemealing it like we're doing today.
But then it's still an administrative cost.
Yeah,
But at least we control it.
we can look at it.
But then
We can explore that and what the process, because right now we're looking at, all the things we're talking about is like the process.
yeah.
And we can look at the process in addition to, the initial one was what are we looking at as far as our fees and how the fees work and how much they are. But the process is something we can look at as well.
Because if you
Yeah,
got
I
a different process and they got one fee, would that make any difference?
Well, that's what they're getting from other towns.
I think if we could find out a way to be very upfront with how much it's gonna cost them, they would be satisfied. In other
That's what
words-
we're talking about.
In other words, you know, if it just says, hey, this is projection from engineering costs that you could be, you know, paying, we just show the fees that we charge. And then they have to deal with these extra fees that doesn't show up on, now my understanding, Raleigh had all kinds of fees that they said you could pay along the way, right? So, you know, when you go to Raleigh, you know you pay flat fees, but there may be a long list of fees that you may have to pay if Raleigh charge you for extra stuff.
It is very expensive, and it is not upfront.
But
It is-
they
it
can
is-
see it though. They know what fees that they may have to pay.
There are so many variables in this, and certainly, you know, I sit on both sides. The development community complains about the fees in every Wake County community, if not every North Carolina community. And they complain to their attorney all the time. The law requires that the fees be justified and linked to the town's actual costs. That was not always the case. That's very relatively recent law. As you might imagine, there were some towns that were looking to make the budget work on development activity, and that was, you know, not an unwise idea. So there has been some legislative restraint on that, but in response, towns started to document every single fee, and now the development community says they get nickel and dimed. So I don't know that there's, you know, I don't know if a developer's ever told me, I love the way they do it in Pig's Knuckle. They really do it really well, and I wish every town did it this way. I've never heard it. So I wish I could give a good example of a place where it works well, but I don't know of one.
Yeah, but our way apparently is not working, so we need to change it if we want to bring commercial in here. So, go ahead.
The one point I just want to make is if you have a single fee that encompasses, you know, the average of all project costs, when you've got a complex project, they're going to actually be getting away with murder, right? Because they're going to have this flat fee and their actual costs are going to be much higher. When you've got a real simple project that wants to come in, they're going to pay this really high fee, much more than what their project actually would have in development review fees.
I'm not saying it's
So,
not being
so I'm not saying it would be as fair.
It's per project, but we're going to give the developer a fee based on what we, and if we know the project, you know, if it's 400 single-family homes and 200 townhomes, and we're going to say, engineer, how much is it going to cost, and we hold them to it, and then we incorporate that in our
So get an
fee.
estimate for each project.
Absolutely. It's the only way you can do it.
That would be the only way.
Yeah.
And then they understand that they may have additional fees on top of that.
That would
At
definitely
least
slow
to have
down.
a more certain fee, and it's coming from one source rather than multiple.
I do believe that would slow down the process because you'd have to have proposals and submittals back and forth between the engineering firm and staff.
And the town.
Could we have our outside consultants develop their own schedule so that we can pass that along and a determination can be made by the town before any plan comes forward, whether we determine that there's appropriate cost containment by our third-party contractor, and we put that in the marketplace such that, I don't know what the schedule would be that an engineering firm would propose. I'll also tell you that I have not seen an engineering firm willing to do this. My clients, active clients right now, because it's an issue. Engineering is very expensive. As Mr. Paul may know, they may be the only folks out there more expensive than the lawyers. So right now, 50,000 and 4 million are currently numbers on municipal projects in North Carolina. $50,000, $4 million engineering. That's just my personal experience right now. So that's a wide number.
If the engineering costs are expensive, but they're saying they're paying too much in fees.
I think that's a little bit of, I think it's more of unexpected. They'll get an invoice from an engineering firm they never heard of. So they have to investigate, where is that coming from? What was that expense for? Why am I paying $3,000 for something I don't even know what it is? And they're being direct billed for all these services that we don't have ourselves. And if they billing something, they just constantly getting these bills and they don't know.
So would it help if up front, when you bring me a project, I give you a paper that says these are going to be the contractors,
I
the
think that may be helpful.
engineers,
That could be helpful.
that you're going to be receiving your invoices
That could be
from?
helpful.
So you all have brought up a number of different things. What we can do is just take into account everything y'all said and kind of bring something else that's back with some recommendations based off some of the concerns y'all expressed, including looking at Raleigh and Wake Forest when it comes to the comparison, and also working with our engineering firm to see what are the most common things that they're doing. And also we can look at, from a cost benefit analysis, how much fees are we passing through?
Let's see what kind
Kinda go
of a
towards
fee
that.
system we can work out with our
Yeah.
engineering firms ahead of time, so that we have a better idea, so that they can commit to a particular fee for a particular project.
Yeah, and I think in general, when we look, because this is our third time looking at, since I've been with the town, is that our fees are pretty low in comparison, but it is the nickel and diming. And so I think at the end of the day, it probably adds up to be less than what you would do in other places, but it's just how many reaches you get. And, somebody reaching into your pocket 5 times when it could just be one up front. And so we can look at that and see what the frequency looks like and what are the most common things, and try to add some clarity to it so we can talk through it.
And maybe that's the narrative we give to the developers as well, that, yeah, we have several sources, but we're still cheaper than other communities.
Yeah,
So-
we can do an assessment of what the average fees are
Sure.
per development, per what type of development, and get a range of the costs.
Yeah, we have a couple options here to get
Well,
our
and also,
narrative out
like,
there.
any of the other fees outside of just the engineering review, I don't know what they are, but how do our other extra fees line up to Wake Forest, Raleigh? I was going to say, I know you have another side.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we did to achieve this a number of years ago. But we can look at it again.
These are current fees?
These are current.
Okay, and it, like, how do we kind of compare to?
Probably a whole lot less.
We're lower, except you see consultant review fees at the bottom. So in some ways, it's analogous to reaching the end of the map as an explorer. You can model out everything down to that point, and beyond there'd be monsters, right?
Okay.
So that, I believe, is the source of the complaint that elected officials are receiving, is that line that says actual cost.
Yeah, actually, even if you put an estimate there, because I think most traffic impact analysis is $30,000 to $40,000, right? Now, when you compare that to the rest of our fees, that's a lot of money, right?
It is.
That's a lot of money. And if somebody was surprised by that,
It shouldn't be.
it's
The
almost,
developers know.
yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, maybe that's the answer. Is put estimates, it could be anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000, or, I don't know how you want to do that. But,
Well, is
But-
$30,000, is that pretty normal across the board for traffic impact?
They're based upon the scale of the scope of the study. Again, it's how big.
And the developers know that.
You've had very small projects with TIAs, and you've had enormous projects with TIAs. They're not the same price.
And do
they're
we
not
use-
cheap.
Do we use the same consultants
Yes,
okay,
for the TIAs and such, yeah.
and also for the engineering?
We use
And we've
Bolton
been able
Bank-
to- and we've
Bolton
been
and
able
Bank for
to-
engineering, and the TAAs are
Matt.
Stantec and, was it DMP?
Yeah. And where possible, if we already have the good thing about the continuity of us using the same traffic engineers, that if they have already done a TIA in that area, then we can go without having a TIA for certain developments. And so we've done that in certain commercial developments in the Main Street corridor and around Main and Young, because we've already proactively done that. They haven't had to have a TIA as a result.
I don't know if you uncovered this in your talking to Wendell and all, but like the traffic impact analysis, and I think I'm right on this, Dave, a lot of places, they just require it. They just say you gotta have one, and the developer go out there and find them someone to do it and pay them to do it, and then we accept it. We have made a decision years ago on this board that we want somebody that we tell them to use, and they have to pay for whatever that cost is, right, Dave?
That's correct.
So So I don't know if we're the only ones that do it like that. I'm not sure.
It's a division. There's a little of each of that.
But I know I've heard that complaint where, you know, they say, well, I could get a traffic impact study done for half of what you guys are charging us.
All of my private sector clients would like to hire their own traffic engineer so that they could work with that traffic engineer to massage the results of that engineering study. And those traffic engineers that are good resist that, but that is a pressure that they're always under.
But I think it's just getting back to being upfront, because, you know, if developers are familiar with that process, and then they see us do this, and it's twice as much.
Have we received TIA complaints, or is it the engineering plan review
It's
complaint?
both. The planning review comes in when you do it 4 or 5 times. And, you know,
But that's on the side of the private sector. That's not happening on the engineering side. It's not we're not doing that. That's a function potentially of the applicant.
No, we got engineers that do the red lines, they call it. Right?
Correct. Stephen, do you want to speak to
Yeah.
how many reviews
It's
some
usually-
projects go through versus other projects?
It's usually 2 to 3 reviews, occasionally more.
Yeah.
And so each review is another bill.
And that's typical in Raleigh and Lake Forest and everywhere else.
Anywhere that has outside consultants.
Yeah. And I think that's understandable. I think sometimes you know, you can go on this process for 4 or 5 times, and why didn't they catch the red lines earlier? Who knows? Now I'm sitting in the back and you put more red lines, and now I see in the back you put more red lines on it, and every time I'm having to pay more and more money. Because I know.
The General Assembly is going to end that.
Huh?
The General Assembly is likely going to end that with some legislation, either, well, this session may never end, but in the next session, there will be some restraints on review. And after a certain review, no new item can be raised unless it's been triggered by a change by the applicant. I believe that is the standard that Rolesville currently applies for itself, but it is not the practice in other places. So you can get new surprises sprung on you later in the process. I don't believe we do that.
And to that point, wouldn't that be on the engineering firm if you know, they go through 1 or 2 sessions and then is that what you're saying, Ronnie, is that then the third time the engineering firm's going, oh, wait a minute, we forgot something over here?
Or the Board of Commissioners say, we want to change this, we want to change that.
This does
And
happen.
that's happened in the past.
And remember, they're paying 2 engineers. They're paying our engineer and they're paying their engineer. And those 2 sets of engineers may disagree. They may have different philosophies. And all of that, during all of that, the meter is running in 2 taxis.
But do we have an issue with, you know, the engineering on our end essentially saying, oh yeah, we forgot, and then it's like, it's another bill on them? I mean, shouldn't there be something that we could counteract that, like, well, that was your error, why are you charging again?
That is part of the comment process already.
Okay.
Every comment is expressly disclosed and responded to, and there should not be new comments in Rolesville arising subsequent that were missed. That's a mistake by the town if that has happened. We don't do that. It is a complaint you hear, however, because it's dynamic. As Commissioner Paul pointed out, moving this to address this issue meant I had to move something else below, and oops, now I just fell under the total tree save area by 0.1%. Well, the conservation team in Rolesville had previously said I was approved as to tree coverage area, and now they've added a complaint that I'm under by 10%. It's moving all the time, but the complaint that you are hearing is about, that's all fine, but the bill keeps going up on me, and the person who isn't in those conversations quite often, depending upon the involvement of a particular developer, is the developer. It's an engineer to town conversation, or in our case, engineer to town conversation. And so surprises may pop up that you hear about. But it sounds to me that there are ways to, I don't know we're going to fix this because it hasn't been fixed anywhere else, but we can be responsive to it. And it will play into your budget, so it's the perfect time of year.
Yeah. I really, and I appreciate you. Anything else you want to present, Steve?
No, I just think we'll have to meet on this and come up with some ideas and try to bring it back before you.
I really appreciate you digging into it, because really, you know, it was just a month or two ago where we did a ribbon cutting. I'm not going to name it publicly here, but it's on Main Street, a new business on Main Street. And I asked them when we did, I said, what took you so long? I've heard you've been coming a long time. What took you so long to come to Rolesville? He unloaded. He actually unloaded on the process that we have to go through. He does Lewisburg, he does one in Johnson County, Harnett County, even Raleigh, and he said Rolesville by far was the longest and the most costliest place he ever. Now he's on Main Street. Main Street, we've got a lot of restrictions on it. I can understand that. But you know.
For what it is, it shouldn't have been that bad.
Huh?
For what it is, it shouldn't have been that bad.
Well, the other complaint he had was every red line that he fixed and sent back, it takes 60 days before they even look at that again. That's 60 days of lost time. Every time a red line is sent to them and they do the engineering and they send it back for us to review it again, which is an engineer, not us. When I say us, it's our engineer. It's a minimum of 60 days before they look at it again. And then if you do that, then you do that 4 or 5 times, that's a lot of months.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. I mean, is that standard across engineering companies?
I don't know.
Or do we need to find an engineering company?
I don't know.
Well, our TRC reviews are monthly, so I wouldn't think it's 60 days. It may take 60 days for them to make the application date and get it in the TRC review process and then get the responses back. So it does take time because we work with partners, so we need to stay on a timeline to work with them for a TRC review. Some places can do it all in-house. They're not stuck to a rigid timeline that, you know.
But I heard this same thing
keep in
from
mind-
people developing and businesses coming too. It's business unfriendly.
Right. And so keep in mind that even if we bring certain engineering approvals internal, City of Raleigh is still unapproved water and sewer. DOT is still unapproved DOTs if it's adjacent to a DOT road, which is a greater percentage of the roads that go through, even include Main Street, like that's a DOT road. And so we can look at like what are some of the pain points that they're having, and what are some of the things that can spun back, and do we need to work with City of Raleigh and say, hey, can you do this, or DOT? But we know that where DOT sits, being short-staffed and always, I'm not going down that tangent, but I felt it crawl at the back of my neck, the frustration with DOT. This came up and I suppressed it. But we can look at what are the things in our span of control with approvals and try to delineate and be communicative about that. And so, yeah. But I think we have a lot of information we can take back and kind of look at the process.
I think to close, thank you, Steve, for doing that, but I think, you know, Commissioner Burnett mentioned the term unfriendly, and I think that's, and it's not the staff. I don't hear any problem with your staff, Stephen, or, you know, talking to the staff. I think y'all do a great job. I think it's the process. Yeah, they find the process and the cost to be unfriendly. And it's nothing on your staff at all. But, it just takes a long time to get it through the process, and then they end up spending a lot more money than what they thought they were coming into the process by looking at that chart, figure out how much this is going to cost. But thank you very much. Y'all want to take a quick break? You think we're going to try? You think everybody good? We can move through it. All right.
I can talk for 5 minutes and then
we got that one, and then I want to do an update. I think some of the commissioners have been asking for an update on this intersection down here. We need to update on that and some dates and communicate that, so. So take it.
All right. The eighth item on the agenda is called the Fowler Road right-of-way acquisition, Fowler Road extension to be more specific. And to kind of fast track it, this is an excerpt, this is our community transportation plan. That community transportation plan highlights all of the future roadways within the town of Rolesville that we want to be intentional about building out to promote connectiveness and also decrease the amount of traffic and provide other options for our residents as we continue to grow and expand. The Fowler Road extension is on the other side of 401, and this Fowler Road extension here is the green line. This project, this thoroughfare that's highlighted by the community transportation plan also coincides with this project here, which is the Merritt property. This is what it looks like in IMAP. And so if you could imagine this highlighted section that's going to go away, that Fowler Road extension comes through this project. And when we look at the Merritt project that this is connected to, this is what it looks like. I provided you all a memo with this. And one thing that we're intentional about is that as development happens, is that we work with the developers to either build the road, the section of the road that goes through it, or in this case, acquire the right of way where we can expand. This particular development, when we just look at the amount of rooftops that are going in with this development, it only requires a 2-lane road that be built. This particular cross section, or what is called out by our community transportation plan for what the future cross-section of that Fowler Road extension is, that it be a 4-lane divided road with a raised median with curb and gutter, bike lanes, and sidewalks. If there was a case, if we were to require that they build that cross-section, then we would have to, because it's considered betterment, we would do a development agreement that would say whatever cost it is above and beyond, we will make up for that by way of transportation, parks and recreation, or fee credits. We're not pushing for that in this case because within our capital improvement, or within our CIP program, we need as many fees as possible to keep funding the work that we're doing. And so what I am bringing before you is, which is captured in this exhibit, is that the crosshatch section here is what they are required to build, and 2 lanes. And what we wanted to do, what I am coming to you all, is that you seek to get your permission, or that you empower me to work with the town attorney to work a development agreement out with them to require the additional right-of-way that's needed for that other side of that road, the other 2 lanes in the median. So that when it comes to building out this in the future, number one, that they won't go ahead and build something in that area. But 2 is that we will go ahead and have that right-of-way for the future full cross-section of Fowler Road. And we've been working with the developer. They are in agreement with it, and they are kind of like waiting for me. We've had several meetings with them, and so I'm essentially coming back to you all to get your thoughts on that. With that, they would take into account the future and state of it, and go ahead and put in the necessary conduit for street lights, curb cuts, and have the future state in mind, that it will make it easier for us to do that expansion when the time comes. And apart from the development agreement, this will be the build out of Fowler Road is something that we would pursue and put on the list of projects for Campo in the same way that we did with the Main Street project, and seek funding to help us make that particular road possible in a future time.
What is that timeframe, Eric? Because when do we think this is gonna, we want to connect this with the bypass, correct?
Yes.
Eventually? When is that? Because
So right now, we don't have any active interest or projects that are engaging these other adjoining properties that I know of, that are close to being built out at least. I don't think we have any applicants that are building out this right now. And so it will really depend on the development of these other 5 parcels that kind of take it down to Jonesville, because the vision for that Fowler Street extension, that it will run from Jonesville to Rolesville Road, and provide a way for residents that live down Fowler Road or down on the deeper end of Rolesville Road to be able to work their way further back to Jonesville to access what will be this gateway area, and also, back to our more city center, town center core.
this is possibly an opportunity, but we have no idea. Right now, we'd be buying that and it'd be dormant for, could be 2 decades. And right now, I would say Rolesville Road needs to be doubled. It needs to be expanded. And that's a problem today, whereas this is 20, 30 years down the road.
Yeah,
So,
I think, I agree with you. And I also think that the cost of land is skyrocketing, and the cost of this right away 5 years from now will be way more if we were to buy it back and we also would have to purchase it, and we're technically purchasing it anyway, by way of surrendering revenues by giving a fee credit. But it will be more costly to acquire that right away in the future.
no, I get that, and I totally understand that, and, on paper, it probably makes sense. But if I had to weigh one versus the other, I'd pick Rolesville Road any day of the week, because that's a problem today, whereas this is an opportunity 20 years down the road.
Well, and what is the cost to the town with pursuing what you're asking?
So the cost in fees would be $610. I think I accidentally closed that exhibit, but it'd be $610,000 is the estimated cost. Yep, here, $610,000, which is about 5 acres at $122,000 per acre.
So if we don't, Eric, if we don't buy the right of way now, 5, 6, 10 years from now, who would we buy it from? Who would own that right of way?
It will be the same, it will be an HOA most likely that owns that land. But if we don't purchase the right of way, then we'll be in a situation where we will have to acquire people's front yards if they were to, for example, if we don't have the right of way and they say, well, let's fill it up with houses then we'll be in people's front yards, which we've kind of seen how negotiating with individual residents kind of plays out.
Where in the budget would this be coming from?
It would be, this will be in revenues, and so we will get less revenues from this development. And so we'll do a transportation fee credit. And
Okay.
So it's a cheap way to buy it.
yeah,
I think we need to look out for the future as well, because if the
Yeah.
land's not gonna be there, and so explain to me how you can say we would have to acquire front yards, so we know that a house would be right in the middle of where that road is.
so right now, like, firstly, I don't know what they would do.
Yeah.
But for instance, that if we do not purchase the right of way, then they could say, well, let's shift this road, this crosshatch area down into the other area, and then make these lots bigger.
Yeah.
And then also make these lots bigger. And so when we expand it, we'll be saying, we'll go to house number 1, 2, 3, 20, and say, each one of them say, can we have this section of your backyard? or we would have to do eminent domain to take the section of their backyard in order to put that, And so we'll go from entertaining, engaging with one developer to, if, it's just projecting, that's 17 houses, 15 to 17 plus another 10. And that'll be a conversation we'll be having with independent homeowners, or are we doing eminent domain and then paying for it on the back end? And I have no doubt that it'll be more than $600,000.
I agree. So none of this has been built yet?
No.
Proposed, and right now,
It's proposed, and we want them
expecting
to,
us to buy.
and they're waiting to see if there's a decision. We approached them about it. We actually initially approached them about building the whole cross section, but we actually need the fees in order to, because if we were to build it, I think it'd be about $2.7 million to build out the whole thing, and that'd be a loss of I think $1.8 million worth of fees, whereas we'll only be surrendering fees for the right-of-way in this case.
Yeah, I think it'd make it very difficult and complicated if we don't.
I do too.
I thought we would preserve the right-of-way, we just won't buy it, and we'd have to buy it from somebody else, or them, or whoever, but if they're going to redesign it and take the right-of-way away, then that's I don't think we.
They could, and I'm not, but if I were to think from revenue generating, houses with bigger lots get you more money. And so.
Isn't there a problem at I'm going to say southern end, where there's a creek or something, and we got to build a bridge?
Yeah, and they're going to cross the creek. They're going
Has to agree with this. Where we at, Dave? Do the developer has to agree with this change?
There's some history in this that some haven't been on the board for. When this matter was approved as a zoning case, the requirements of the LDO required that because this was on the comprehensive transportation plan, this needed to be built. Our town charter, meanwhile, provides that for those that build more than the law requires, they would be eligible for fee credits. So the balance in that was for the board to adopt a new policy to allow for reimbursement on the same property as the development was occurring. Before that, we only provided reimbursement for off-site improvement. Here, we had a cost of development that far exceeded what any traffic impact from this project would justify, which created a potential problem with our town charter. So if the requirement is to build in accordance with the comprehensive transportation plan, we found ourselves in a situation where we would provide reimbursement credit for the amount over by means of a future development agreement when we found out what that number was, and that amount would be paid from our transportation impact fee budget whenever that was determined. That was the way to get there. When at the time, that seemed like a fantastic idea for the town. Unfortunately, like the barking dog that does catch the mail truck, and I'll share the behind the scenes here, we now know what the number would cost to build out the whole thing right now, and it would consume a great portion of all of the impact fees that this project would generate, and it would be a road to nowhere. Since the time of that zoning approval, we have committed a great portion of our capital fund balance to more immediate needs. And it opened the door to say, maybe we don't need to build all of this right now. That's the background for this. Rather than doing $4 million, I don't remember what the number was, versus of reimbursements, you're doing $600,000 of reimbursements, and you're keeping $3 million plus dry for the future. Does that make sense?
So how certain are we that this connector will ever be rebuilt?
We're not.
Right. So it could be, and it could end up being where a two-lane road will be perfectly fine, because it could be a two-lane road to nowhere, or it could be a two-lane road to Jonesville Road, and everyone's hunky-dory with that because it'll work. We don't know.
Correct.
Okay.
But again, our ordinance provides that we build and develop in accordance with a plan for the future. And so developers are obligated to construct things that are on the comprehensive transportation plan, because otherwise there will be no plan for the future.
So they are obligated to build 4 lanes, but we accommodated them to allow them to do 2, and we're gonna buy the right-of-way to be able to add 2 lanes at some point in the future, if and when we need it.
Yeah, we can obligate them to build the entire thing right now,
So we lose the impact fees.
but then you are obligated to pay them back. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yep.
Yep. So this is the cheapest way out.
It's the cheapest way, but in all honesty, there's so much land that's landlocked in there that, you know, within the near future, that has to be a priority in order, because we can't build off of the bypass. You know, we already know that. So there's so much land that is landlocked that would us doing this start to open up the door to developers to look at these pieces of land and say, oh, okay, now I see the possibility here, especially if the town, you know,
Well,
I think there will be incentive if we were
so they
to,
buy it, but knowing that it's there, it's ready to go, not just like, well, this looks like a great piece of land, but nobody can get to it because there's nothing there's not even a drawing
yeah.
so there's a
somewhere.
draw. That exists.
Well, yeah, so,
Yeah, and
If
when this was done, when was this done? 10 years ago, Scott?
No, 2021,
2021
yes.
was the last,
Update to the CTP, yeah, 2021.
when this was done, that green section was estimated to be about $60 million.
God dang, that is so expensive.
And I'm sure that was before all this escalation and stuff.
Yeah.
That's probably 80 or 100, 80 or 100 now.
And
So the thing was,
this is the price
but
tag for the
thing was,
section if they
it's
were to build it
important
out.
that maybe we could get a Campo project to finish it out. And we only pay 20% of the Campo
Right.
project. Campo pays 80%. So, but if we give up the right of way, we wouldn't rely on it anymore. It wouldn't be a state road and it wouldn't be a Campo
I
project.
think the
That's a
full,
2-lane road, it wouldn't be a state road?
Probably
no,
not.
I think DOT has signaled that it would have to be built to their standards, which is how our consultant came up with this design in 2021. As there was a competing idea of a more park-like road at one point that might have been cheaper
Like
to.
Granite Falls was-
Yeah. Just for the board's consideration, even though this is not an action item, this will be consent agenda for the future. You would sort of have 3 ideas for the future on Fowler Road. You mandate that they build the whole thing on their property, and we reimburse them for the difference between their part and our part. You go with the compromise solution here, or you amend the CTP again and strike the Fowler Road obligation, in which case they would build essentially a 2-lane driveway back out to Rolesville Road.
That would dead end at the end of their property.
Yeah, it would just Fowler Road would just no longer be a thing that you're planning for.
Right. The best option is probably keeping our options open by buying the right of way.
Absolutely.
I think that's the manager's recommendation to the board.
I think that lends to.
And it states our intentionality. And so, for instance, if in our comprehensive plan, if the Gateway 401 area were to fully develop, then it would greatly incentivize the development of the other neighboring parcels that run along the Fowler Street extension. And so the Fowler Road extension. And so we would be kind of saying this is our intentionality for this area passively, and also helping with the development of the area, which is something that we've been actively promoting and wanting to happen. And it would also create a bypass to the bypass
So,
in that future state to help with traffic flow.
so the developer is obligated to build the bridge over that creek,
Yes,
a 2-lane.
Yes,
We'd have the right of way to do expand it when the time.
that's correct.
Are there any similarly difficult pieces of terrain between the end of that creek and Jonesville Road?
Heck, yeah.
Yeah. And that's why it's cost so much.
Yeah.
All right.
The big one, they're not even crossing.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
big
on,
one.
that's on this side.
Yeah.
That's the big one.
All right, so
And that will be another, another developer's,
problem. And that's one of the reasons why
Opportunity.
they may not buy the land.
yes.
Sure. So there's problems with this. It's not a done deal to have that road built, especially with developer help, even though, like Commissioner Burnett said, we don't have a ton of land, and that appears to be some decent land that could be developed.
It's just all landlocked.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your action?
And so I'll bring it back, I'll bring this to you on consent, which will essentially be the
draft development agreement will be attached.
the draft development will be attached, and the memo, this memo will be the cover letter for it, and it would, right now, if you could authorize me to work with the town attorney to get the development agreement for the Fowler Road right-of-way acquisition to final form.
So we will
For
make that
execution.
position.
Okay, this will be the consent agenda item, sorry. And we can,
At a future date.
it'll be the next.
It's just going to be on consent. If you want to take action on it now, you can do that, but you haven't seen the development agreement, and normally I put that in your package,
So
because I know
are we looking to
everyone reads it.
Make the purchase of the right of way or not?
Yes,
We are.
the development agreement will have that right, the right-of-way acquisition within it.
So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Fine.
It includes the engineer's estimate and all the terms for their credit back, like we've done with other projects.
So it's no change from when it was approved, basically.
When it was approved, the anticipation was that we'd be building the whole thing, so probably more in the $3.5 to $4 million of reimbursement, rather than 600 and something reimbursement.
Okay. So they still had to pay some transportation fees. So
Yes, they will. There will be considerably more transportation impact fees built by this project at full build out than this reimbursement.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Sure.
That's the driver on this.
Right.
Yeah. Was it 500 units?
Yeah, 505.
That's about $1.5 million, so. Anything else from this? Yeah, if we would, we finished all the items. Let's close up. I think some of the commissioners are asking for an update on the intersection down there. I think, is it fair to say some people complaining down there?
Yeah, pretty fair. With the never-ending project.
Evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I appreciate it. I'm Scott Miles. I'm the town engineer. There's been a lot of discussion of engineers tonight, so I've listened. I'm hearing what you're saying, and definitely many of the things you were talking about are on my radar. So that's kind of what I was brought on to help with. So I tell you, I'll be working with Eric very closely to solve some of these issues for you. So I'm giving an update on South Main Street. I'm going to start with the French drain over there at across the street from Susanna's. The contractor has stated the drains will arrive on this Friday. I have asked them to provide me with proof of that it has been shipped and it's going to actually arrive here on the 20th. They have not been able to do that yet, but that is on my radar to do that. As far as the rest of the pavers, assuming they arrive on time, the work will begin on Monday the 23rd, and it will take approximately 2 weeks to complete, weather permitting. The trash cans along that thing have been emptied by Public Works, and they said they will continue to monitor and see if they ever get trash in them, and they will start placing bags in them once they are bolted down.
Why can't they put bags in it now when they're not bolted down? Because they get disgusting, and then, like, bugs start flying, and it's nasty.
I see that point. I'll ask our Public Works to go ahead and let's just
Yeah,
get
can you
bags in
just,
there.
can
Let's
you
just
just
put bags in.
advise, yeah, give them the direction to just put bags in there? Because otherwise that's just going to become a bigger issue later down the road.
I can do that, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so as far as the rest of the benches and the trash cans, they will be installed by the second week of April. The 2 benches that were in question in front of Susanna's Antiques, we will actually remove those. We'll take them to Public Works. We've been in discussions. There's some positions down at the other end of the greenway, at the other end of the project, where we could put them down there that may be better suited. But we have done that. The 2 benches that are closest to the street, I think, in my opinion, they are served best to be where they are per plan, which is they're not right next to the street where they're sitting right now. They're going to be back off the street a little bit, but those 2 benches are going to be going there, and they'll be bolted down within the next couple of weeks. There were 2 benches in front of is it Alan Clark's building? I apologize. The salon. They have been moved further away from the building. They're going to be, we've lined them up actually with the 2 light poles that are already there, and so that would be.
You're talking about the 4 that are kind of going
No,
sidewalk and the parking, they go.
No, those ones are they're going to stay where they are. I've noticed that they are out of a little bit of alignment so we're going to make sure that they line up. These are 2 a little bit further down the unfinished building. There was 2 benches that were supposed to go up against the building that they were asked to move them away from the building, so we've moved them and they're going to be aligned with the light poles. And my idea behind that was that won't further commit any pedestrians walking through there. The poles are already there, so the benches are kind of in the same alignment, and they're not going to bother anybody that's walking or going in that particular area.
Okay. Question, why didn't we get all the pavers at once? We knew how much, and why didn't we get the drains all at once? Like, why is this being so incredibly piecemeal by the subs?
The Fred Smith they were in discussions with changing the design at the time. They were trying to see if there was a way to eliminate them altogether.
What, the drains?
The drains altogether, but we turned to at that time, that was a little before my time, but it was determined that just wasn't feasible, that the drains had to go in. By the time that decision was made, the other ones had already been ordered.
But what I mean is, like, okay, we knew we had 2 corners. Both those corners need pavers, both those corners need drains. So why did this one come and it's all good, and now we're sitting here in La La Land waiting for the rest of everything to finish this side? Because it's a hot mess.
They communicated to us they ordered them both at the same time. The drains coming from Canada, and so the reason why we started exploring other options to go away from this and go to a less fancy drain was because there was issues on it being delivered. But the option that we had explored with DOT and in general, it just wasn't going to work.
I understand that, but it's like, but now we're sitting here saying, where are the rest of the pavers?
I don't know why, the pavers are here.
Yeah.
The pavers have been here for months.
Yeah, they're in the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
But these drains, okay, this is where I'm saying, I'm sorry, but the way that Fred Smith and their subs have handled this project has been abhorrent. That makes 0 sense as to why the drains did not all come in at the same time, if they ordered them at the same time. I'm calling BS on this company. And I want to know, what standing do we have? This project, which should have taken less than a year, is now on, what, year 2.5? I just, the professionalism and the accountability from Fred Smith Company is absolutely abhorrent. And what can we do to hold them to the fire? What, do we have any recourse on them besides talking to our neighbors and letting them know what an absolutely horrendous job? If they can't handle a small project like this in Rolesville, how the hell are they supposed to be able to pull off a larger project anywhere else in any other municipality? And yes, I wanted all of that on the record, and I really hope my mic was on.
We've been waiting on these French drains for 6 months, 8 months.
It's bullshit.
It's a really long time. It's inexcusable.
It's absolute bullshit what they have been handing to us, every little piece. So where's the accountability? And I'm not talking about the guy in the hard hat that's in charge of the guys on the street.
I understand.
I'm talking about the owners of this company, with air quotes.
Yeah. Every time you all communicate to us this way, they watch the video and those people show up to the next meeting.
Well, fantastic. If that's all it took, then I could have done this a couple meetings ago, because they are on the radar.
Oh, yeah, it's been done.
Quite a few times.
Yeah, and so we are holding them as accountable as we can. And I assure you that we communicate in the same way you do. And this, and to them on that, and demanding what, can we get proof of this? Can we get proof of that? And
Not
it's
can
been
we,
tough.
we demand it, or you're, like, what, do we still have outstanding payments due to them?
And by holding them up, we will interfere with the ability to get the project done.
And
They're not getting it done.
they're not.
They are, progress is being made, and there are larger items that are moving forward, but the ones that are more in your face, like this drain, are most definitely not moving the way it should be.
It's inexcusable, because yes, those drains, we were told that
Yes,
they were supposed to be in months ago.
In January.
And the sheer fact that
in
we have,
January when they mobilized, yeah.
we have one side done, but why didn't they order the materials for the other side? If they were supposed to be done in tandem.
They said they did. It's just,
Okay, I'm calling
they
BS
said
on
they
that,
did,
because they
and
all
they said
should
it's
have
on the
came together.
fulfillment. They said
Demand
it's on the
proof.
fulfillment.
Demand proof. Let's see it.
Yeah, and so we've asked for that.
No, you don't ask, you demand it.
Yeah,
We're the client.
we've
We're
done
paying
that.
for this.
We've done that.
And we should never enter a contract like this where we don't have any leverage with someone who is so ridiculously recalcitrant.
Can we bring the state attorney general in on this for their, basically, they've just, I feel like they've just lied.
Well, we got attorney, so we don't have.
Well, I mean,
Well, we have
Dave,
a-
what can we do?
We have a parallel
Ask him to dig
attorney.
in on-
We have a parallel attorney that we,
Yeah, you request him to dig in on some things if you want to. But also, I guess one thing I want to know is, I kept hearing last year that it was going to be finished this spring. And that was in the contract, right? So I want to know what that date is.
yeah.
And it's supposed to be in the spring this
Scott can
unless,
keep-
unless I'm being told something different.
Yeah, so Scott can keep going through his updates. In general, like, the asphalt plants start opening up when the temperature hits a certain point, and that's usually early April. And that's why they stated that they will
I
start.
want to know in the contract, when is there a drop dead date that we will see on?
The contract date of it being done has been passed because the water lines project, when the project change order has essentially rendered that final date like null and void, because we're past that point in time because of the closure that we had to go through and the whole fixing of the water lines. And so us getting to a place that we can establish that new end date, that's what we're focused on, is like what the new end date
I thought
was.
the end date was still in the future, Dave. That,
Construction end date,
Are they
is we
started down there?
passed the construction end date. Now, there's a project close date that we haven't passed because there's a lot of financial things that need to be settled out with like, we taking Tooltown, going back to Campo, get reimbursed, doing all those different things. That, the actual financial paperwork process, the as-built and things of that go on past the last day of
I
construction.
kind of agree with the commissioners. We need to make sure if there's something in that contract that they're dragging on. So, you know, as Commissioner Paul said, we're not holding them accountable. And I think at this point, because I don't understand, it's one thing I don't understand. I can understand, what I don't understand is why did they go over there and tear up all that dirt, and put all that temporary stuff when we had it pretty good that if we do a main on main, we could do it. And they tore all that up not knowing that they had the stuff to do it with.
Well,
They should have left it alone. They shouldn't have tore anything up until they had all the materials to fix it back. And that's what I don't understand.
yeah, they weren't going to do that, and then they, based off feedback we got from business owners and like why did they quote demobilize and what they did that. And that was because there was a complaint as to why did they not start. And so I think their logic was, let's go ahead and start it, and then so once that delivery of that drain comes, then we can just install it. It'll take less than a week.
Yeah, that's amateur.
But the complaint was, why aren't they working over there? And they said, we're waiting on the drain. And
But
they're
you don't
saying, well, you
work
can't
on
do
something.
anything, and you can't do anything until it happens.
I would be totally upset if somebody came in my house and tore it up and left for 2 weeks because they didn't have something to fix it back with.
Yeah, that's,
They should have never started to work if they didn't have the stuff to fix it back. I think
Exactly.
anybody'd be upset about that, right? And,
Yeah.
and you know, I think those are the things that need to be explained, Dave. because it impacts the commercial people down there. And these decisions they made all along has really negatively impacted folks down
It's
there.
like they've never done this before.
Seriously, it's like they're a fly-by-night operation. Dave, what lines do we have to be able to make, is there any way to make formal complaints about this company to the state or to the county? You know, what can we do, if anything, other than me sitting here and getting all really ticked off?
The only advice I can give on this is that we should have these discussions in closed session and not in open session. And secondly, we should have your construction counsel who has been looking at this in that meeting.
Let's do it.
I wanted this to be on the record, though, about how ridiculous, we can't even get this project finalized so that the public knows the absolute ridiculous, the frustration that this town, these businesses have had with this company. So, but if we need to discuss more in a closed session, I understand that. But I felt that it was very important that that is on the record, because this is insane, the ridiculousness that this town has gone through with this particular company.
Yeah, so I think there was kind of a request there, Dave. Maybe next meeting is have the other attorney and us talk about this.
We have to.
But I do want Scott to finish his presentation, and then we'll thank Commissioner. I know everybody's passionate about this for sure, so thank you.
Thank you. The next item was the final layer of asphalt. They stated, I had a meeting with them today, they said the last layer of asphalt will start on Sunday, April.
Or somewhere.
What's that?
You have a chart or something?
Oh, I apologize, I didn't. Okay.
Okay, final asphalt.
It was
started.
Sunday, April 12th, and all of the work will be done during the evening. And a notification, we're going to send it out via social media and other sources when we confirm that. In addition, I've requested that all valves and manholes have high visibility paint installed surrounding them to help the visibility up until the final paving is done.
Okay, so are they going to have to close the streets at all during the day?
Not during the day. They plan to do all of the paving at night.
At night?
At night, yes. And all the striping after that, after the paving is done, they're going to come right in and finish all the striping. And I will requested that be done as close together as possible to the paving, so we're not bringing in two separate crews at two separate times. As far as I think you asked about the parking spaces. That's the same thing. That's the striping in the final lift, so that'll be done at that same time.
How long do you think, do we know how long it'll take for that final layer of asphalt? Like how many evening?
Trying to remember. I think it was 2 weeks. So it would be at the end of closing in towards the end of April will be the final paved lift will be done, and thermo and all the striping will be done as well. And after they have done that, they'll finish up on the landscaping, and so we're looking to have everything done by the end of April if everything goes well, and we have, the weather obviously plays a factor in that, but the asphalt plants will be open and the temperatures will be such that they will be able to pave.
And so at the end of this project, because Eric, I remember you saying something about this before, you know, like the orange netting, the construction, especially like around the parking lot? Like all of that, that's DOT, correct? That like none of that can come down until like the actual finalization of a project?
Yeah. Yeah, those are tree protection fences, so they make sure that the construction doesn't interfere with anything outside of the fencing. That's the cause for those.
Okay, so basically we're looking at the end of April, hopefully to be able to remove all that, or is that like another layer with the state?
No, I think we'll be able to remove that particular fencing. Yes.
At the end of April, okay.
There'll be some erosion control fence that needs to stay in place until it's quote established, and so that area being established or being released is maybe 75% of the area being covered with grass, or it has to grow. And so there'll be some places we cannot remove the erosion control until the grass grows. Okay. But the particular fence that you're talking about, the construction fence that has the big gaping hole in it, the protection that'll come out when the project comes on.
It's fine.
Construction wise.
Okay.
the end of my updates. If you guys still got any other questions about the project, I could do my best to try to answer.
Any other questions?
Well, when can you get the benches cleared out that are not going to be, 'cause, like, they're just hanging out there and they still have like foam
I'll get with
wrapped
Public
around them?
Works tomorrow and ask them to see if they can get out there as soon as possible. Because
Okay.
those two benches can, now that we've determined they're not going there, we can take them out.
Yeah.
And we can maybe go ahead and instruct them to go ahead and bolt down the benches that are there.
And there's still, like, where those benches are sitting right now up against the road, I noticed it's still like dirt under there.
I think that's going to be a planter, so there'll be landscaping in that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is that
it
the
looks,
stupid
where
one
where they have them sitting is right at the back of curb, which that's not where they'll be. They'll be on the other side of where they're
The
sitting.
planter.
Correct. Correct.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if we could just get that cleaned up as soon as possible, just with that random stuff that we could, because those benches have been sitting out there with the shipping material still all around them for
Yes.
a couple of weeks.
Yep, we can. Absolutely.
Thank you, Scott. I seen on social media the Mingle Lane, when is that? Is that at the end of this month?
I'm sorry?
The Mingle Lane.
Oh, it starts March 27th.
So how many days is that?
2 weeks from this
10
Friday?
days, 10 days.
So are they gonna have that corner clean? See, that's the thing, we've had it good for Mingle Lanes, and now they've torn it up, ain't working.
I can have a conversation with them about,
I could have a conversation with them about filling that ditch back in for Mingle Lane.
Their cost.
To go back and fill it in after they dug it up?
That's the only way to make it, when you say return to that.
I think once we get confirmation, if those things come in on this Friday, they feel like they can get the drains in and potentially at least have the pavers from
The building to the drain.
to the drain installed by the Mingle. That's if everything goes well, of course, the weather rains and if they don't come in. But that's the conversation I had with them today. It's like they said, yeah, they're coming in Friday. And I was like, oh, how long will it take you to get the pavers in after the drain? And they said, well, drain this, the pavers, a couple of days. And they said they could by the end of next week, if those things go well, they could at least have that portion of it in it. So from the businesses out to the drain. They didn't say the rest of it towards the edge of the street, so they still might have some fencing up then. But that's the goal. That's what I expressed at the Mingle. They know that Mingle Lane is coming, and so they understand how important that is to us.
Do we have the planters yet, or is that still on order? Because that's like on the Susanna's Antique side, that's where I was referring to, like those.
East Young, at the corner, East Young.
Yeah.
Plantings?
Planter.
The plantings?
It's
Is it
in the dirt.
is it plantings or a planter?
It's going to be like it's going, the median that currently it's going to just be plantings. It's not going to be planters. It's not going to be a structure.
Oh, okay,
It's
I
just-
misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically like a tree is going to be planted there and then like a grate over top of it, kind of
Yeah.
like I've seen.
I don't know off the top of my head what exactly it
those
is.
two areas are going to be low-lying plants. Because, yes,
Okay. Okay.
I can verify that.
Yeah, we'll find out
Just
exactly
need
what's
to be
going
taken care of before the 27th.
Those plantings?
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's a hazard until it is.
Okay, absolutely.
It wasn't a hazard.
But it is.
We
Well, right now, like you have the pavers up outside of Susanna's and then you just have these random holes.
Holes, yeah.
When did they know they didn't have the grates? Is that before they tore it all up, or they tore it all up not knowing they could finish it?
I think the deadline for the delivery of the grates has been a little bit in question, obviously, which is why we're asking them now to give us a proof of that it's been shipped from Canada, wherever it's coming.
And again, none of that makes sense because we've been waiting on these things for 8 months.
But meanwhile,
So
the
it's
grates
all,
are in
like
across from Susanna's.
You
So
said, it's all BS because they're lying through their teeth because we've been waiting on these things and we've been told and promised for 8 months. Ridiculous, unacceptable, and we're accepting it, and the whole town thinks we're the culprits, and it makes all of us here look bad because of Fred Smith's inability to do their job.
I understand.
Right. Anything else? Got anything you want to add to end it on a better note?
We're just as upset as you all are.
We know.
And we're not happy with it. I don't want anybody to think that we as staff are happy with it. We are not. And we are doing all the things that are within the span of control of the contract to do that. And that's why we've been working with the external counsel. But the change orders threw off. The magnitude of the change order of the water lines really did a number on the hard dates within it. It was such a big change order. It was basically a project. Basically should have been. And so it threw everything off. And so it makes it hard for us to be able to flex the contract the way we want. And so we'll keep working on it and we'll take it up in closed session. But
I think that's
yeah.
a fair statement, but I can tell you, and these commissioners can tell you too, that since the water line's finished, they have constantly screwed up. And that was almost 12 months ago when they finished the water line, right? That was like in April last year, if I recall, March, April last year.
I'm not sure when they finished.
I believe it was. I believe it was like March, April last year.
We started talking about the French drains right after that.
Because they had all the water lines, all the water lines, I think, completed by about March or April one of those 2 months last year. It's been almost a year, and I don't know how many times they have screwed up stuff, just like they have, recently. And like Commissioner Mike Paul says, they've had a year to order these grates.
It was just, yeah.
So I know.
These are our same frustrations, yeah.
Within the water lines, but the last 12 months, it's been nothing but one screw up after another. But the last 12, after the water lines was finished, I'm thinking.
Well, and we were being told, trying to remember, so like the road wasn't even completely opened, right? The road opened, was that
October.
of last year, right? And they had been telling us, like, there was one point we were expecting to be open, the road to be open for the 4th of July weekend. And then that date came and went, and it was just every meeting. It was like, nope, 2 months later, 2 months later. It's just been, and I get the water line, get that. But since then,
Oh, I'm definitely not making excuses for them.
absolutely not. And that's why I found it important to have this discussion just right now. And I know that I know that you guys in previous sessions have had the same conversations. But just to keep nailing that point home, that it's apparently they need daily supervision as to what is going on in their company with our project. All right, I'm done, Ron.
All right. Anything else?
On a positive note, because you needed something, in your consent agenda for the April meeting, you will see a proposed engagement letter from Womble Bond as outside bond counsel for your projects on the Young Street campus. So as we think about having the right people doing the right things, having independent bond counsel is the sort of making sure all the right folks are there with all the right alignments. So John Mize, if anyone knows him, will head up that group, and I look forward to working with him again.
Very good.
All right. Anything else? Thank you, board. Appreciate it. I will adjourn the meeting unless I hear opposition. Not hearing any. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.